Now, we will see what they say, but that's what Hillary is saying at the moment. So, okay, I'm going to put the Iranian missile thing aside for just a moment. And I just noticed something curious at the press conference when it came to the questions that Hillary was getting. If she says that it's okay for her to have used her personal email, my question is, then why didn't you turn over everything, including your private correspondence? Because everything is supposed to be open to the public. If that's the way you want to handle it, everything is supposed to be open to the public. All right, so step one, the first question that we got, to me, you guys tell me what you think, seemed like a softball question. All right, here was the first question that was tossed out.
Madam Secretary, why did you opt out not using two devices at the time? Obviously, if this didn't come out, you wouldn't probably wouldn't become an issue. And my second follow-up question is, if you were a man today, would all this fuss being made be made? Thank you.
Jeez, does that sound like a softball question? I even wondered, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I just kind of wondered, were these questions setups, or is the press just intentionally tossing her softballs? First off, the first part of that, she had just finished saying that she had used her personal account so she wouldn't have to carry around two devices. And she was just going to put everything together and sort it out. It seemed like a better idea to her at the time. She had just finished, so why would he ask that? The second question, I don't even know what the hell that was. So, okay, that was my first thought. Well, I guess the first person is all in the tank for Hillary because he's tossing her a softball question. Number two, reporter number two, stepped up to ask a question.
Can you explain how you decided which of the personal emails to get rid of, how you got rid of them and when, and how you'll respond to questions about you being the arbiter of what you release? And secondly, could you answer the questions that have been raised about foreign contributions from Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia that abuse women or permit violence against women to the Family Foundation, and whether that disturbs you as you are rightly celebrating 20 years of leadership on this issue?
Rightly celebrating 20 years of leadership on this issue sounds to me like, again, she was getting a softball question and a little pat in the back there. To me, so far, I'm listening to this thinking, you know, folks, this is a serious issue, but I don't hear anyone in the press treating this like a serious issue. But we understand where the press is on this. We understand where their bias would fall. But I thought, okay, first two reporters, okay, they're in the tank for Hillary, fine. You couldn't have three in a row.
I was wondering if you think that you made a mistake in either in exclusively using your private email or in the response to the controversy around it, and if so, what have you learned from that?
Well, okay, number three. So we have three questions in a row now where I have to kind of throw my hands up and go, I don't get it. I don't understand. Why do we have what are supposed to be professional reporters that are just not going to ask a serious question? Then I had to think to myself, no, I do. I completely understand it. Well, why would they attack Hillary? So what I'm waiting for at this point, what I'm waiting for is I would like a serious reporter to step up and ask a serious question. And finally, the fourth question was a reporter who I cut this part out just because I didn't want to get into this too much. But he kind of makes Hillary nervous, and Hillary has a nervous laugh whenever somebody puts her on the spot. She just throws out a nervous laugh. So this reporter caused her to spit out that nervous laugh. Here we go.
Madam Secretary, State Department rules at the time you were Secretary were perfectly clear that if a State Department employee was going to be using private email, that employee needed to turn those emails over to the State Department to be preserved on government computers. Why did you not do that? Why did you not go along with State Department rules until nearly 2 years after you left office? And also, the President of the United States said that he was unaware that you had this unusual email arrangement. The White House counsel's office says that you never approved this arrangement through them. Why did you not do that? Why have you apparently caught the White House by surprise?
Well, there you go. What you have there is a reporter actually doing his job as a reporter and actually asking Hillary a serious question. And when she got that serious question, she let out that nervous laugh that I've always associated with Hillary Clinton. Okay, good. At least we got a reporter in there that asked a question. But she just continued on with the same old answer. It was my understanding, and we were perfectly within the law at the time. Well, again, I'm waiting for the lawyers to step up on this one. Let's let the people who can dig into the law to see if that's the case, because I seem to remember reporting to you guys that that's not the case. That, in fact, it was an ambassador that was let go because he was using private email. DJ watching on video stream. Okay, Glenn, Hillary saying she only wanted to carry one device is bogus. On a smartphone, you can get your personal, business, etc. all on one device. Now, I think, I'm not disagreeing with you, DJ, because I thought the same exact thing. I thought, well, on today's smartphones, you can organize the information any way you want. Stupid thing about our government. They're still using BlackBerries. Look at the picture, unless there's a picture that I haven't seen. Look at the picture that Hillary has. It looks like a BlackBerry to me, the older kind, which, by the way, is government issued. But I wonder, for those people who own BlackBerries, can you still organize the information the same way on them? Because I kind of thought that was bogus, too. Well, let me put it to you this way. I don't even think, forget that. BlackBerry doesn't matter. Here I sit in my little office/studios of American Standard Media doing the Bold Republic radio show for you guys. And I have several email addresses. There's my personal email address. There's the email address for Bold Republic, which is boldrepublic@aol.com. And then there is the email address for American Standard Media. What am I doing there? I am separating out my emails. Why did I do that? Because it's a lot less confusing for me to separate. If I go to my personal accounts, I know that I'm only getting personal messages from people who are talking to me personally. If I go to my Bold Republic at AOL account, these are people who want to talk to me through the radio show. If I go to the American Standard Media account, which, by the way, DJ will tell you I'm pretty guilty of never doing, well, there I only see messages sent to me for those people who want to talk corporate business with American Standard Media. Do I even have that account anymore? Did you guys finally just delete that? I think you finally just got rid of it because I never went there. But that's how I separate out my email. Hillary could have done the same thing. So if Hillary wanted to just organize herself, she would have had a email. I mean, honestly, seriously, do you think Hillary wanted her emails, considering the relationship she has with her husband, Bill, and can you imagine the kind of notes they send to each other from time to time? They don't always get along. You know this. Do you really think she's going to keep all of them on one device that she doesn't have? I guarantee you she has other email addresses. So keep the State Department stuff for the State Department. Keep your stuff between you and Bill. A lot of people have multiple email addresses. So DJ says, I did on my BlackBerry. Yeah. I do still have my American Standard Media account? Okay. On my BlackBerry, she says, if it has been government issued, they can set up personal and government accounts. Yeah. No, okay, there we go. That settles that. So there's no excuse that Hillary has here. But what struck me in the entire press conference that I just heard, it didn't surprise me, but I will say it annoyed me and frustrated me that I had to go through so many questions that had nothing to do with the issue and were softball, and Hillary was just able to hit them out of the park. Let me play the difference between the first guy and the last guy once again. A typical softball question at the press conference today.
Madam Secretary, why did you opt out not using two devices at the time? Obviously, if this didn't come out, you wouldn't probably wouldn't become an issue. And my second follow-up question is, if you were a man today, would all this fuss being made be made? Thank you.
Okay, well, you got to be kidding me, especially that last one. Hey, how come none of the reporters ever thought to ask, hey, Hillary, excuse me, oh, they wouldn't do that. Madam Secretary, why didn't any of them think to say, hey, why didn't you just on your BlackBerry, your government-issued BlackBerry, how come you didn't just set up separate accounts, one for your personal life, and then have a .gov account for your job? Why didn't you just do that? You could have set it all up on the same device. So, folks, we just solved it. I'm not even going to play the last cut. We just solved it, as far as I'm concerned. What do you mean you would have to have a separate device for every email? You can use one device and have as many email accounts as you want on that device. We all know that to be true. And yet you and I just figured it out right now, right here. But Hillary was able to fool the press? These are supposed to be some really smart people. How in the world do you fool the press over something like this? These people should have thought of what we just thought of long before you and I ever thought of it. You know what we need to do, folks, is just take over the job from the press and start doing it ourselves. Just go ahead, get online, start your own business as an online newspaper, because obviously these people have no idea what they're doing. Your National Deadlock Countdown for March 10th, 2015. 18,149 billion. And now, a message from future generations.
Well, that's great. That's just great, man. Now what are we supposed to do? Game over, man. It's game over. What are we going to do?
This has been your National Debt Clock Count Up.
I'm Professor Burke from Farmers Insurance, and this is 30 Seconds of Smart. So you want discounts on your home insurance. Upgrade your roof. Upgrade your plumbing. Get a burglar alarm. Get a fire alarm. Combine policies with your spouse. Bundle your coverage. Quit smoking. And, of course, talk to farmers, because the more you know about home insurance, the more you can save.
We are farmers.
Get smarter about your insurance at farmers.com.
Stop by and see Lyle Austin, 201 West Lakeway Road in the Lakeway Professional Center, 686-5002. That's 686-5002.
Daydreaming, son. It's time to get prepared. Time to get off your sofa and run yourself down to Surplus Unlimited in the Gun Traders Building. Oh, my. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Civilian soldier, they got everything you could need. That's right, the surplus is unlimited. Surplus Unlimited ammo for babies and adults.
That's right, babies need camo too.
10 different styles of camo.
Oh, don't you look pretty.
550 cord, numerous colors, wool blankets, boots, hats, gloves, coats, shirts, tactical vests and belts, camping supplies, high-quality army cots, and that hard-to-find P38 can opener. Save time, save money. Surplus Unlimited in the Gun Traders Building. 801 Carlisle on the Douglas Highway across from the fishing lake. Gillette, Wyoming.
Hello, Americans. This is Rod with your local American-made store here in Gillette, Wyoming, where it's always made right here in the USA. Have you seen our stainless steel art? It's beautiful. Yes, and he will do custom. Framed artwork. Check out our selection. Top-of-the-line stuffed olives, flavored olive oils. And yes, we have toys and Okabashi sandals. Free pocket constitution with purchase. We are the solution for this great nation. Get informed. Don't forget your veterans. God bless America, and buy American. Matters. MyMadeInAmericaStore.com.
Hey, are you going to Jack's Liquor with me on St. Patty's Day?
I'm not sure. What's going on?
It's going to be great. They're making corned beef and cabbage, great drink specials, Irish strippers. It's going to be awesome.
Corned beef does sound good. Wait, did you say Irish strippers?
Yeah, they are great. Pretty cheap, too. I'll probably have a couple.
What?
$7.50s of rums, vodkas, liqueurs, creams on sale this month at Jack's.
So, about those Irish strippers.
Relax. They're mixed drinks. Although, I'm a little Irish.
Yeah!
Your adult daycare center, 302 East 2nd Street, Gillette, Wyoming.
Dedicated, reliable-ish, hardworking from 10 to 3 Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. They are the American bureaucrat, because the engine that was America's progress and success was running a little too fast and efficient. Who knows where all of this innovation and success was going? So for the good of the nation, somebody needed to slow it down. It took a lot of paper to jam up those gears of progress, but no one knows paper like the bureaucrat. And America was too rich compared to the rest of the world. Can't have that. No one knows how to make your money disappear like the proud men and women of the American bureaucracy. So, America, take all your great ideas and big dreams and flush them. And if you find your dreams coming true, don't worry. The American bureaucracy has a ton of paperwork and a line for you to stand in. Bureaucracy, slowing progress and freedom for a more humble America.
No, Glenn, it doesn't matter if you're part owner of the company. No cigars in the studio. Oh, what is that smell? Put your shoes back on. I don't want to smell that. Look, if you want good talent, you have to put up with some bad habits. Let's get back in there with the original bad habit boy, Glenn Woods.
So, folks, the Spreaker app is up and running right now. And by the way, if you want to preview that, just go to my website at boldrepublic.com, and you can either watch the show off the video stream, or you can go ahead and click on just listen to audio only. And if you go to your app store, just type in Bold Republic. It's a completely free app. You can listen off your phone anytime you want. So all of that is up and running and available right now for those people just joining me. I'm going to get to what I titled this program in just a moment, which is Iran unveils chilling new weapons. And this has everything to do with the fight that Congress is having with the president right now over who's in charge of setting a treaty, and so we'll get to that. I just want to wrap up one more thing about this whole Hillary thing, because to me, I do find this really disturbing, okay? And in this case, it's not so much about Hillary, because obviously we just solved that just a moment ago. She's trying to convince us that, well, I put all my emails on one device with my BlackBerry because it was just easier to have everything on one device. And the answer, DJ, you nailed it. The answer is really simple. Hillary, you can just use your BlackBerry, and you can have an email address for Bill and you can have an email address for you and Chelsea, and you can have an email address for you in the State Department. How do you want to separate it out? You got some friends out there you want to have an email address with? You can go ahead and separate it out, and so that way it's not just some big mess that you're getting. Now, don't tell me that Hillary doesn't know that. She knows that. So the idea that I had no choice. I didn't want to carry around two phones. You didn't have to, Hillary, so that excuse is out the window. So what I want to know is how come the press didn't think of that? If we're able to think about that here on this program, nobody in the press could think of that question. I think that's a bit of a problem. Now let's see how well the press digs into what she claims, which is, well, at the State Department, you're allowed, she says, to use all of your private email with the State Department email. It's typical. People do it all the time. Well, let's find out. I'm not even going to make a judgment on it at that point. I'm just going to take that and put it aside, and let's find out. Now, the second question I have about that, though, is who finds out? Well, I don't expect the folks at MSNBC or the New York Times to really dig into this. I honestly don't. I think Fox News already knows the answer to that because immediately they dig into stories like this. Instantly, they want to know, is what she's saying true? Let's go find out. And they go digging into it. Will CBS find out first? Will CNN find out first? How many news organizations do you think will not even bother to look into the question? The reporter will just dutifully write down what Hillary said. It'll be printed or aired in that manner. Hillary said this. And if somebody comes up with evidence to the contrary, how many news organizations out there in the irrelevant press will point out that, well, you know something? Hillary either lied or she was completely, absolutely wrong about it. Now, on that, let me go back to this because it is irritating to me. So here, folks, is an example of a reporter asking a softball hit it out of the park Hillary question.
I was wondering if you think that you made a mistake in either in exclusively using your private email or in the response to the controversy around it, and if so, what have you learned from that?
Okay, that's a softball question. Here's a real question.
Madam Secretary, State Department rules at the time you were Secretary were perfectly clear that if a State Department employee was going to be using private email, that employee needed to turn those emails over to the State Department to be preserved on government computers. Why did you not do that? Why did you not go along with State Department rules until nearly 2 years after you left office? And also, the President of the United States said that he was unaware that you had this unusual email arrangement. The White House counsel's office says that you never approved this arrangement through them. Why did you not do that? Why have you apparently caught the White House by surprise?
I wonder if that guy, depending on what organization he works for, is going to get a promotion or get fired or ever be invited to a Hillary press conference ever again.
The White House says that a letter sent by GOP senators interferes with ongoing nuclear talks with Iran. 47 Republican senators signed a letter to Iran saying that any deal without congressional approval is only an agreement between President Obama and Iran's supreme leader. The U.S. and Iran are at a critical phase of negotiations with an outline agreement due later this month. And for more on this controversial issue, we go to One America's Amanda House in Washington, D.C.
We're starting to now see the fallout from last week's address by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to a joint meeting of Congress. Netanyahu warned against the deal that the U.S. and world leaders are negotiating and urged Congress to put in place more sanctions against Tehran. The letter that was sent to Iranian leaders makes clear that any nuclear deal reached with the United States would be, quote, nothing more than an executive agreement unless approved by Congress. The movement to draft the letter was organized by freshman Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas and is signed by nearly 50 Republican senators. It's an unusual move in U.S. foreign policy, but comes as Republicans continue to accuse President Obama of overstepping his executive bounds. The letter also comes during a fragile state of the nuclear arms negotiations, but is being seen as a way to strengthen the U.S.'s relationship with Israel.
Israel's been our best, longest-standing ally in the toughest region in the world for a long time.
Kansas Governor Sam Brownback has seen this debate play out in years past when he was a U.S. Senator. While many know him for his social conservative views, he's also played a significant role in foreign policy, especially with issues pertaining to Iran and Israel.
And when you create space there in that region between the United States and Israel, you invite provocation. And you invite bad things to happen. When you allow Iran to get nuclear weapons, you invite a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. And it's not just the Iranians, it's the Saudis, it's the other players in the region that do this. I mean, this is a very dangerous track that the president's taken us on in dealing with Iran, and I think maybe Netanyahu's got a more accurate view of the world of how you deal in that region.
This letter not only turns up the heat on Iranian leaders, but puts pressure on the White House to make the right move. President Obama has denounced the letter, calling it an attempt to undermine his administration's ability to conduct foreign policy. Amanda House, One America News, Washington.
By now, you're well aware of the group currently known as ISIS or ISIL. But continuing to refer to this group by the names that they gave themselves does nothing but to support the image that they want to portray. We as a country, as a nation, as the civilized world should not dignify them by using the name they gave themselves. So, we're changing their name to PIGS. Pseudo-Islamic group of sadists. Of course, we mean no actual offense to pigs, because they give us bacon, and we love bacon. So from now on, don't call them what they want to be called. Call them what they are. Pigs. This is a public service announcement from American Standard Media. setting the new standard in American media.
Hello. Yes. I think Glenn is going to take your call next, but don't call him Glenn. He wants to be called Pasty White Guy. Oh, no, he takes it as a compliment. Trust me. Wait, here we go.
Back to the show. Back to Glenn Woods.
Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Okay, at this point, I haven't given out the phone number yet, so here we go. 307-363-4093 is the phone number if you want to get involved in the show. 307-363-4093. Our crack research staff at American Standard Media came across this question from a newspaper that liberals hate. I mean, absolutely can't stand this newspaper. Washington Post. Drives them crazy. Get a load of this headline because we were just talking about it. Why couldn't Hillary Clinton have two email accounts on one phone? They got this up fast because it's just what we were just talking about. And apparently a reporter for a conservative, was considered to be a conservative newspaper, thought of it and is asking the question. Okay, liberal press, I'm not going to make any judgments. I'm just going to wait to see how long it takes you guys to either figure it out, or maybe you've already figured it out, but you're just not saying it. From the story, during her press conference Tuesday, former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton, doesn't say Rodham, but I'm throwing it in there, explained that she used a personal email account because she wanted to avoid having to carry two phones. Quote, when I got to work as Secretary of State, she said, I opted for one convenience to use my personal email account, which allowed the State Department, which was allowed by the State Department. Now, again, that's up for the debate. We'll find out if that's true or not, if it's allowed by the State Department. She said, because I thought it would be easier to carry just one device for my work and my personal emails too, which surprised or spurred the immediate question, why not have two accounts on one phone? Who doesn't do that? Okay, wait a second now. Who's this reporter here? Philip Bump is his name. First off, Mr. Bump, I like your name. That's a cool name, Philip Bump. I wish I had a name like that. Well, you know what Glenn Woods is? Glenn is an open field. And you know what a woods is? My name is a contradiction in terms. I am a walking contradiction. Thanks a lot, Mom. Philip Bump. Now, that's a neat name. Thank you, sir, for thinking of the question and getting it out there. For one thing, he says, it's important to remember the technology. Here, let me edit that for you, Mr. Bump. I know you're better than I am. You work for this prestigious newspaper, after all. But I'm going to edit your language a bit. For one thing, Hillary, technology. You know, and you can just end the whole article right there. But he goes on. And except for IT departments, it was not in the same place in 2009. Your iPhone or Android can handle multiple email accounts, even in a unified inbox. The conservative group America Rising has pointed out that Clinton talked about having two phones in an interview earlier this year, but that was this year. When President Obama took office in 2009, there was a lot of press attention paid to his fight to keep his BlackBerry, which he loved. He won. As presidents probably tend to do, the deal worked out, allowing him to stay in touch with senior staff and a small group of friends in that way, according to the spokesman Robert Gibbs at the time. He had been using two phones, a BlackBerry and a General Dynamics, well, two different kinds of phones. Obama's former speechwriter indicated on Twitter that two devices was the norm. But again, technology has advanced beyond that. This guy goes into quite a bit of detail here about how in today's world you don't need to do that. But you all know that because not only do you guys organize your emails, different email accounts on one phone. If you're on Twitter, Facebook, and whatever other social media, that can be organized as well. All of your messages can be organized to come through one portal, if that's the way you want to do it. Okay, Hillary. So you're going to have to explain that now. I know. Hillary doesn't like having to explain anything. I mean, it's just a massive mess, like a huge stain on a carpet, the kind you call Carpet Express Direct to clean up. Do you see the segue? Boom, done. So when some political figure has caused a stain on your carpet, probably because you just heaved chunks listening to them, call Carpet Express Direct. In Northeast Wyoming, they can either come clean up the mess or replace your flooring altogether. It's typical for people who engage in listening to a lot of politics and listening to a lot of politicians. The more they listen to them, the more of a mess they end up making all over the floor. It's just not a healthy lifestyle. But Carpet Express Direct will keep your house clean. So at any time, Northeast Wyoming is where they're located in Gillette. They do free estimates.
Hey, Frank, you're actually gonna fall for that hook, are you? I'm just so hungry, and the lure looks so good. Yeah, well, just look up through the ice hole at that guy. Hey, he's got all the latest gear, doesn't he? He's so warm and comfortable, and the top window sportsman clothing, and fishing pole, and the best lures, nice comfortable chairs, coolers, warmers. He's got it all. I can't stand it. I'm gonna bite the hook. Are you seriously gonna fall for that? No, it's just that it has to be warmer up there above the ice than down here in the water. Yeah, and that frying pan he's got on the fire's a lot more.
Rocky Mountain Discount Sports has everything that the ice fisherman needs for the winter. Lines and lures, rods and reels. Special outfits to keep you warm, tents to keep the wind away, and the right kind of lures for winter fishing. Rocky Mountain Discount Sports, 4706 South Douglas Highway in Gillette, Wyoming. Open Monday through Saturday, 8 till 9, Sunday 9 to 6.
Smithers, you look exhausted.
Oh, sir, I was at the office half the night.
Really? Well, that's the third night this week.
Yes, sir. I just can't seem to stay away. I'm not sure what's gotten into me.
Dedication, son. I haven't seen that kind of work ethic in years.
Right. Well, I'll probably be at the office late again tonight. There's just so much to do.
You'll want to work late every night at the Office Saloon with Doc McGillicuddy Monday. Tap that Tuesdays. Screw it Wednesdays, Thirsty Thursdays, and thank God it's Friday with Bud and Bud Light specials. And at the office, you'll even want to work weekends. Saturday nights, ladies' nights, and mini-meet Sundays. Work late at the Office Saloon. U.S. Highway 14 in Gillette, Wyoming, out toward the airport.
Smithers, is there any luck with that client you've been chasing?
Oh, yes, sir. Last night, she gave me her phone number.
Attaboy, Smithers. Attaboy.
Conservatives say they should have to go to work every day just to earn a living and pay for things like health care and food. Conservatives believe that you should have to pay your own way in life.
But we in the Democrat Party disagree. Why should you be stuck in a job trap to pay for the basics of life? Things you have a right to. Food, housing, healthcare. Why should you work for these things when there are plenty of hardworking rich people who can do the work for you? Wouldn't you rather just stay at home and catch up on your reading? Get to know your kids. Play with your cat. Yes, we can continue to print and borrow money and let other people do all the work for you so you can enjoy your life. Vote Democrat this next election.
Muffy, you know we have to go to work. There are people depending on us.
This message brought to you by the DNC. Any adverse effects to the actual economy is purely coincidental.
Do yourself a favor. Don't just listen to the show. See what Glenn's talking about at boldrepublic.com. There you can watch the show live on YouTube or download the show and listen to it later. Now let's get back in there. Here's Glenn Woods.
All right, so unless anybody unravels something new about Hillary, I'm moving on to what I originally entitled this program. Iran unveils chilling new weapon. And now, what's happening right now, as you know, we have the President of the United States with Secretary of State John Kerry trying to negotiate a deal which from the way I'm looking at it, is just a bad deal. And so Congress is stepping in and going, well, wait a minute. And, of course, by now you've heard that Congress has put together a letter and several congressmen signed the letter, and they sent it to one of the mullahs in Iran. And now you're hearing, including Hillary today during her press conference, offered up two only possible explanations that Republicans would do such a thing, and both of them undermine the United States of America and undermine the office of the presidency. And none of that's true. The fact of the matter is, Congress is doing its job. This is exactly what Congress is supposed to be doing. A treaty is not officially recognized by the United States of America until Congress has seen it, reviewed it, and approved it. So unless Congress approves this Obama treaty, we don't have a treaty. Now, I had to think about this. Now, I'm not remembering the exact situation, but some time ago, President Obama was trying to negotiate a climate treaty at one of those Kyoto summits, right? And so he was going to offer up billions of dollars of our money to third world countries and promised all sorts of reductions and agreements and trades with other countries. And Congress took a look at it and said, and at that time, Congress was even controlled by the Democrats. Well, the Senate was, the House was. But Congress took a look at that and said, Mr. President, you can't just negotiate that treaty and sign it, and the United States is going to comply with it. Mr. President, Congress needs to see that treaty, vote on it. Then it's officially recognized. So the Democrats are all up in arms now, no pun intended, at a time when Iran just unveiled some new surface-to-surface missiles, as in they did it today. And these things are pretty dangerous, more accurate, good distance on them. And you and I know what they want to put on top of those missiles. That's what the centrifuges are for. So before any deal is signed, Congress gets to see it, Congress gets to vote on it, or we don't have a treaty. Now, that's the way and I would invite I know this is difficult for you guys, but any Democrats out there who are complaining about Congress second-guessing the president, I would invite you to do something that is completely counterintuitive. I want you to read something that I know you hate reading and hate having any reference made to, and that would be the Constitution of the United States. Read the sucker, because it says right in there we don't have a treaty until Congress ratifies it. And that's the note that Congress sent to the mullahs in Iran about those missiles. The missiles are surface-to-surface missiles. The article reads, Iran has a chilling new weapon, the Samor surface-to-surface missile. The missile was unveiled only a few days after Netanyahu spoke at the Iranian about the Iranian missile program, saying it poised a threat not just to Israel, but eventually the U.S. He remarked that Iran's intercontinental ballistic missile program is not part of the deal that's currently being negotiated. Iran refuses to even put those missiles on the table. Netanyahu said during his speech, well, Iran could have the means to deliver the nuclear arsenal to the far-reach corners of the earth, including every part of the United States. Well, now, they've unveiled it. So, according to Iran's defense minister, the new missile enjoys different characteristics in terms of range and pinpoint accuracy in comparison with previous products. It can also evade radar. The general noted that a more advanced version of the missile could be available later this month. That would increase the aim and destructive power and precision of the weapon, says Iran. Not only that, but the general in Iran said, that 2 other long-range ballistic missiles have been given in large quantities to the Aerospace Division of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, their army, if you will. Deputy Foreign Minister Iran's nuclear negotiator refused to back down on those missiles, saying that they were completely defensive. Okay. So Congress is doing what Congress is supposed to be doing. And I'm going to turn this around on the Democrats. I want you to imagine for just a minute that a Republican governor was right now negotiating a deal, and he wasn't letting the Democrats in on it. And the Democrats in Congress sent a letter like this to Iran. What do you think well, you know what the press would be saying right now, and you know what the Democrats would be saying about it. They'd be all for it.
Ebola virus.
What difference?
Jim Crow Day.
Those
radical. Time to try something new.
Hey everybody, welcome to News Busted. I'm Jody Miller. Let's get started. According to a new report, witchcraft is experiencing a resurgence among American women. In fact, one prominent witch is about to become the 2016 Democratic presidential nominee. Apple fans are getting excited about the release of the new Apple Watch. Now they'll be able to clock how long they've been waiting in line for something they could have just ordered off of Amazon. According to a new report, ISIS is struggling financially. Things are so bad, instead of 72 virgins, their martyrs now get 1 night of free Cinemax. After learning he had a $6.4 million tax lien, actor Robert De Niro apologized for his mistake, paid the fines, and claimed that's the last time he gets tax advice from Al Sharpton. According to a new report, the adhesives used to attach false eyelashes can cause eye infections. Oh well, just more bad news for Bruce Jenner. President Obama said the notion that the West is at war with Islam is a lie. And if there's one thing President Obama can't stand, it's a lie. Little Caesars has a new deep dish pizza. It's topped with pepperoni and 3.5 feet of bacon wrapped around the crust. This pizza is recommended by 4 out of 5 financially strapped cardiac surgeons. And finally, the National Enquirer reports that Michelle Obama wants a divorce before the end of the second term. Like many Americans, Michelle hates the thought of being stuck with Obama for another 2 years. Thanks for watching the News Busted, everybody. I'm Jody Miller. Make sure to tell your friends about us, and we'll catch you next time.
Sorting through the nonsensical nonsense that makes your life a living hell. It's Glenn Woods. OldRepublic.com.
It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. And phone number if you want to get involved in the action. And Dan, at this point, the Dan is in charge of the phones today. Open phones, people can start changing the subject if they want. Talk about whatever they want to talk about. Interrupt me if you have to. And people can get a hold of me in several different ways. Phone number, especially if you're listening on a radio station 307-363-4093. That's 307-363-4093. For the Spreaker geeks out there, either use your messenger or call the show. For those people that are watching by the video stream, you can do what Adam just did here. He left a message. I think he called me Tom, though. Name is Glenn, but hi, Adam. So do I think Obama will try to bypass Article 2, Section 2 clause of the Constitution specifying that the Senate has to advise and concur with the treaty by 2/3 of the senators? I think, Adam, he's already trying to do that, as he has tried to do with past treaties. Just a moment ago, I mentioned there was an environmental treaty, one of the Kyoto treaties, that President Obama just wanted to negotiate and sign, and we were going to comply with it. And Congress had to sit up and say, excuse me, Mr. President, you can't just do that. But then again, this is the same president when it comes to, pick a topic. Amnesty, what else has he signed executive orders on? This guy who taught the Constitution, who promised to adhere by the Constitution, who has done nothing but just ignore the Constitution. By the way, in the past few weeks, I've read 3 different articles by 3 different boobs out there who have said, well, obviously the Constitution is not working, and so we should just trash it. The Constitution doesn't work. And the answer is, we're not using the Constitution. What the current form of government we have in this country right now has nothing to do with the Constitution. When we do adhere to the Constitution, things work pretty well. Nothing's ever perfect. There is no utopia. But things work pretty well when we actually do adhere to the Constitution. So the idea is, no, we don't need to trash the Constitution because it doesn't work. We need to get back to the Constitution because the Constitution works. Now, for those people who are just joining me, so right now Congress is under fire by the White House and other news media types out there. Well, you know, the Republicans are just a bunch of obstructionists because they're actually talking to Iran and saying that Iran doesn't have a treaty unless Congress approves it. At the same time, Iran is announcing that they have a new missile system, the very system that Benjamin Netanyahu told us about, with missiles that very possibly could reach the United States of America. Damn right I want Congress to get involved. Anybody but this guy who's currently negotiating the deal. Well, both these guys, the president and John Kerry. Speaking of Kerry, the good Kerry is on the phone. There's the evil Kerry, and then there's this Kerry on the phone. Hi, Kerry. How you been?
Hi, Glenn. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, very good. What you got for me?
Well, I keep hearing people say that the president taught the Constitution.
Yeah.
But has anybody verified that he taught the Constitution of the United States?
That's a good question. Because, see, I always thought that if he said he taught the Constitution, that we should go to every single student that graduated from his class and just take the diploma off the wall and say, I'm sorry, but it really turns out it doesn't mean anything. But if, in fact, he taught a completely different Constitution from another country, perhaps they pass the class.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm thinking, because I'm thinking he doesn't know anything about the United States Constitution, right. So he may not have actually taught the Constitution of the United States.
So
just because we call him a professor of the Constitution does not mean that he taught our Constitution.
There you go. So, well, there you go, Kerry. This is what we do from now on. Every time the president says, I taught the Constitution, the answer should be, what country? Somebody in the audience needs to shout that out. So what I'm proposing is that we're going to give you a plane tickets, and you're just going to follow the president around waiting for that opportunity, because if anybody can do it, you can.
That would be perfect, because I would actually do that, and I would holler, which Constitution?
From what country, yeah.
Actually knows the Constitution of the United States.
You have the voice that would actually carry that far, so I believe it could get done.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. 307-363-4093 is the number. That's 307-363-4093. See, the president's supposed to know this. Look, let's face it. The president knows this. The president knows that any treaty has to be ratified. Scott Clem on the video stream. Brian Williams was there when Obama taught the Constitution. Oh, yes. In fact, Brian Williams was there when the Constitution was signed. So, yeah, he would know all about it. 5 times the Democrats undermined Republican president with foreign governments. And by the way, you're not going to see this on the irrelevant press. Number 1, that time the liberal lion Ted Kennedy proposed a secret alliance with the Soviet Union to defeat Ronald Reagan. Where's that on the evening news? Number 2, Commandgate. 1984, 10 Democrat lawmakers, including then Majority Leader and House Intelligence Committee Chairman, sent, oh, that's right, a letter they sent to Daniel Ortega. Listen, okay, for those affiliate radio stations out there, news is coming up right now. And we have to take a serious look at this. So the Democrats and the press are giving Congress a hard time because they want to make sure the treaty with Iran is actually ratified if we have one at all. The Democrats are beside themselves. The press is beside themselves. Well, I guess we have to do a little homework for them. We're going to do it next.
Is gaming a boys' club? That's the name of the school lesson plan developed by the Anti-Defamation League, ADL for short. Now, the ADL is a well-respected organization, and it has long fought anti-Semitism, racism. It's done this for decades. And as a longtime admirer of the ADL, I am baffled by its sponsorship of such a biased and dogmatic curriculum. Now, the lesson plan advertises itself as meeting standards for inclusion in the Common Core, this influential national curriculum. The entire lesson plan is dedicated to the proposition that video games are a hotbed of sexism, misogyny, and it gives students the message that anyone who dares to suggest games be more inclusive can expect to be terrorized by malevolent gamers. Well, the lesson plan materials include a video and an article by feminist critic Anita Sarkeesian. Both of them are very harsh indictments of the world of gaming. Now, that would be fine if it were not for the fact that she's the only assigned author. And in another part of the lesson plan, the teacher places 7 posters around the room. Now, each bears a statement about video games, and students are supposed to take little Post-its and put them on various posters they agree with. Now, 3 are neutral. It just says, I have played video games, or I have watched people playing games. But 4 are affirmations about sexism. I have witnessed sexism in video games. I believe video games can perpetuate sexism. Not a single sign says anything positive about games. You don't find a sign that says, gaming's an exciting activity for both men and women, or sexism in video games is exaggerated. Those don't exist. The curriculum also includes a small group discussion on sexism in video games and additional resources that focus on, guess what, harassment, misogyny, and terror in the culture of games. Now, this curriculum is not only obsessively one-sided, much of it is just false, misleading, exaggerated. I mean, start with the very first sentence. Video games do not have a good track record when it comes to positively including girls and women. But if you turn to page 3 of the curriculum, you find that students read about how women now constitute 48% of video game players, up from 40% in 2010. Now, an important study has shown that there has been a major demographic shift in the video game industry toward inclusion of women. It's just that women and men tend to, on average, prefer different types of games. In fact, the world of games is rich and diverse, and there's room for everyone. So why give young women this discouraging message that they're not wanted? Now, what about this idea that video games, especially those most popular with men, that they perpetuate sexism? Well, the lesson plan promotes this idea, yet offers no evidence. The fact is, as video games have thrived in the United States, so have women's freedoms and opportunities, and women's participation in sports and games. As I have said in my earlier videos on gaming, gender critics have to show not dogmatically assume that video games make men sexist and unjust or hold women back in some way. They haven't even tried to meet the burden of proof. Now finally, what about the claim that when women criticize video games, they receive abusive messages or even threats? Well, unfortunately, this is sometimes true. Feminist critics have received threats, and that is deplorable. But what the ADL fails to mention is that nobody knows who sent them, and males and females who challenge the feminist critics, they receive threats too. I mean, Milo Yiannopoulos, a British writer who defends gamers from the charge of sexism, he's received threats. He got a threatening letter that contained a dead mouse impaled by a razor blade. But the ADL curriculum, like dozens of major media stories on gamers, they sensationalize the threat to the feminist critics and make no mention of threats to the other side. And then they imply that anyone who objects to something about the feminist criticism, about this idea that it's misogyny in gaming, that you're implicated in the crime of violence. Now, the ADL lesson plan does include mention and discussion of a Pew study of online harassment. But that study does not support the message that women are victims, men are predators. I mean, while it's true that more women than men are sexually harassed, men are the primary targets of threats. And the internet can be a hostile environment for anyone. The ADL lesson plan includes a vocabulary list and urges teachers to make sure that students master a list of words. Now, these include abusive, dehumanized, misogyny, gamer. Well, I can think of several others I would make students learn. Biased, manipulative, propaganda, re-education. The Common Core should repudiate the lesson plan, and my advice to the ADL, stop playing games. Recall this defaming curriculum.
A radio show? Yeah, tip of the iceberg. Check out the YouTube videos. See what Glenn's talking about on Facebook and Twitter. You can find out more at boldrepublic.com.
I'll make our government open and transparent. I'm going to make it impossible for congressmen or lobbyists to slip pork barrel projects or corporate welfare into laws when no one's looking, because when I'm president, meetings where laws are written will be more open to the public. No more secrecy. That's a commitment I make to you as president. When there's a bill that ends up on my desk as president, you, the public, will have 5 days to look online. When there are meetings between lobbyists and a government agency, many of those meetings is possible online for every American to watch. When there's a tax bill being debated in Congress, you will know the names of the corporations that would benefit and how much money they would get. And we will put every corporate tax break and every pork barrel project online for every American to see. You will know who asked for them, and you can decide whether your representative is actually representing you.
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully tacky somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
All right, I'm going to do a little bit of the research that the irrelevant press so far isn't doing. You and I solved the problem last hour with Hillary. Now let's go after Obama and the Democrats. It's a Bold Republic radio show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. You can do what Carrie just did. She called in. 307-363-4093. That's 307-363-4093. And I've opened up the phones. If you don't want to talk about what I'm talking about, you can go ahead and interrupt me and change the subject. And Adam, who's chatting with me by the video stream, I don't think Adam, the Logan Act has anything to do with that, because that's talking about unauthorized citizens negotiating a treaty. Like, for example, when Jimmy Carter went to Vietnam. I'm sorry. When he went to talk to Kim Jong-un in North Korea and negotiated a treaty. And he's not allowed to do that. So he could have been arrested for that, but they never arrested. But that had nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. Let me catch you up to speed, everybody, for those just joining me. So Iran just revealed that they have some new ballistic missiles, possibly that are more accurate. They say can reach the United States of America. Benjamin Netanyahu spoke about those missiles when he was speaking before Congress. By the way, it's perfectly okay for Congress to invite a world leader to come speak. Folks, it does not show any disrespect for the president. The president shows disrespect. The vice president does. So does all the all the Democrats who walked out or refused to attend in the first place. Because we have equal branches of government, folks. Just like the president can invite a world leader to the White House, Congress can invite a world leader to speak before Congress. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. They're trying to make it sound like it's some big deal. This is disrespectful. No, it's not. Well, it's disrespectful and undermining for Congress, say the Democrats, for a bunch of Republicans to send a letter to the mullah in Iran and say, well, you can't negotiate a treaty unless Congress ratifies the treaty. It doesn't. Well, you can negotiate it, but unless Congress ratifies the treaty, it means nothing. Just so you know, whatever you agree with John Kerry and the president, it doesn't mean a thing unless Congress votes on it. That's what the letter essentially says. And the Democrats and the irrelevant press are beside themselves. All right, let's back up. Number one, Ted Kennedy, back when he was breathing, proposed a secret alliance with the Soviet Union to defeat President Ronald Reagan. 1983 KGB memo uncovered after the fall of the Soviet Union described a meeting between the former KGB officials and the former Democrat Senator John Tooney, Senator Kennedy's confidant in Moscow. Tooney asked the KGB to convey a message to the Soviet leader proposing a campaign in which Kennedy would visit Moscow and negotiate to get around Ronald Reagan's policies. According to the memo, Kennedy thought an intermediary offered some help to facilitate a mediator, proposed buy and drop off, and so on, all of which we remember Ronald Reagan. And this is something we should learn here that the Obama administration is never going to learn. There was no negotiating a treaty with the Soviet Union where the Soviet Union would stick to the terms of the treaty. For those that are old enough to remember, Jimmy Carter negotiated with the Soviet Union the SALT II Treaty, strategic arms, okay, and Congress did not approve of it. So Jimmy Carter signed it anyway and said, well, we're going to comply with it anyway. Even though it's unratified, unimproved, we're going to comply with it. And the result was the Soviet Union cheated every step of the way. They lied, they cheated. Once again, Jimmy Carter was proven to be just a fool for trusting the Soviet Union. Just to say to them, oh, play nice and we can trust each other, right? Doesn't mean that people like communists are actually going to do that. We should have learned, Jimmy Carter should have learned the lesson after Adolf Hitler. Just because you signed a piece of paper doesn't mean that they're not lying to you. But they agreed, we have a piece of paper. Yes, and they lied when they signed it. Ronald Reagan came along, and what did he do? From a position of power, he moved some missiles around the chessboard that is the planet Earth and put the Soviet Union in a very dangerous position, then built up our military after Carter had torn it down, then backed the Soviet Union into a corner and said, now you're going to sit down and negotiate with us. He pushed them. He called them the evil empire that they were, and he pushed them. And from that position of power, we got some treaties out of the Soviet Union that they had no choice but to stick to because they were afraid of Reagan. They were afraid of America. So what's happening right now? A few weeks ago, I gave you guys a story about how John Kerry is sitting in these negotiations, and his counterpart from Iran is yelling at him from across the table, pointing his finger and screaming at John Kerry. Does that sound like we're in a position of power to sit at this negotiating table? Here's how this should work. The moment John Kerry walks into the room, the Iranian counterpart should be nervous because of the presence of the Secretary of State as an individual. Then nervous because of what he represents, the power of the United States of America, knowing that he's there to speak for the president. And the president of the United States is somebody who will just nuke the daylights out of Iran if given reason to. Now, sit down and negotiate a treaty on those terms, and we will get anything we want out of Iran. You are going to stop your nuclear program. You are going to dismantle these missiles that you've been building. You are going to stop. Boy, think of the terrorism around the world right now. No, go around the world. Think not just the group formerly known as ISIS or ISIL that we're calling pigs now, pseudo-Islamic genocidal sadist. But think across the Mideast of all the different terrorist organizations. Who's been their primary sponsor? Iran. You are done sponsoring terrorism around the world. You are done building up your military. You are done building nuclear facilities. It is over now. And from that position of strength, that's how you negotiate with nutballs like Iran. Let me take you back to another place in history here. 1984. 10 Democrat lawmakers, including then Majority Leader, House Intelligence Committee Chairman, sent a letter to the Nicaraguan communist leader Daniel Ortega, known as the Dear Commandant letter. Now, for those who don't know, at that time, Cuba, Fidel Castro, was trying to flip countries in South America to make them communist. And he had done so in Nicaragua. Daniel Ortega was a puppet of Fidel Castro. And Russia, the Soviet Union, and Fidel Castro were building up the military of Nicaragua and trying to sponsor communism in surrounding countries, and Reagan was determined to put a stop to it. So he started arming rebels in Nicaragua. The Democrats couldn't handle that. The Democrats went around the president and sent a letter, Dear Commandant letter, to Daniel Ortega. In it, the lawmakers criticized Ronald Reagan's policy toward Nicaragua and whitewashed the record of violence by the Sandinista communists. And by the way, I mean, if you want to know what their record was, just think of any country where there's ever been communism. Police state, mass graves, torture chambers, starvation. And that's what was happening in Nicaragua. So you can imagine, well, Cuba, Soviet Union, China, North Korea, name a country that's been communist, and I will show you police state, mass graves, starvation, torture chambers. So that's what Reagan wanted to stop, and it was the Democrats who apologized to Daniel Ortega for Ronald Reagan and tried negotiating around the president's back. Okay. So Nancy Pelosi visited Syria to talk to the ruler Bashar al-Assad. 2007, newly elected House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Syria dictator Bashar al-Assad. As the Associated Press reported at the time, the meeting was an attempt to push the Bush administration to open a direct dialogue with Syria, a step the White House rejected. Now, I'm just pointing out here, these are cases that the irrelevant press is going to ignore. They've been pushing on these undermining, seditious Republicans who've written a letter to the mullah of Iran, hey, you don't have a treaty unless Congress ratifies it. That's how we do it in this country. But they won't bring up what Nancy Pelosi did. What about this one? Democrats visited Iraq to attack Bush's policy. As Stephen Hayes recounts, September 2002, David Bonner and second-ranking Democrat of the House of Representatives flew to Baghdad in an attempt to undermine George W. Bush's case for war in Iraq on a trip for Saddam Hussein's regime. He was accompanied by Representative Jim McDermott. Mike Thompson actively propagandized for the Iraqi regime. Mr. Dermott asked whether he found it acceptable to be used by the Iraqi regime, said he hoped the trip would end the suffering of children. We don't mind if it did that. He said, we don't mind being used. Okay, finally, Jimmy Carter tried to sabotage George H.W. Bush at the UN. Now, Adam, that note you sent me just a moment ago, it might apply here. November 20th, 1990, President George H.W. Bush gathered support to oppose Iraq after his invasion of Kuwait. The former Democrat President Jimmy Carter wrote a letter to nations who were in the UN Security Council trying to kill the administration's effort. As Douglas Brinkley explained, Carter's letter was an attempt to thwart the Bush administration's request for UN authorization of hostilities against Iraq. President Bush, well, in effect, what you have here, and we got to remember Jimmy Carter, again, while Clinton was president, what they're not mentioning here, while Bill Clinton was president, Jimmy Carter went to North Korea and tried to negotiate a contract there. So, okay, let's get back to what Congress is doing now, and I'll wrap this up. I'm not a fan of Republicans, just like I'm not a fan of Democrats. But the Republicans are doing the right thing. This president doesn't have a treaty until Congress ratifies the treaty. So if this president comes back with a bad treaty that would guarantee Iran a nuclear bomb pretty much anytime they wanted it, because he's not negotiating from a position of strength, then Congress has a duty to not ratify it and shut it down.
Pool leagues, dart leagues. Saturday night is ladies' night. Poker every Wednesday night. Domestic beers and draft on sale, and special daily dollar shop. We even have a packaged liquor drive-thru and many other things for you. It's Lakeside Liquor, open Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. till 2 a.m. Sunday, 11 till 11, because you need to relax after where you've been. Work is hard for the ladies and gents. Come to Lakeside Liquor. Relax and vent. Lakeside Liquor is across from Wyoming Work Warehouse in Gillette.
Howdy, folks. Are you tired of getting that $5 fine for whining about your beer or wine? Start saving those $5 and talk to Swede at Swede Specialties right here in Gillette. Swede can help you get started to keep you supplied with kits you might need to make some doggone good beer or wine. Give Swede a call, 686-0588, or go to swedespecialties.com. If your friends complain about your homemade beer and wine, slap them with that $5 fine.
Where will Wyoming be by the year 2100? Are we building a future for our children, or are we stealing it? Right now, government employees who expect a retirement check will find their pension fund broke in just 14 years. Wyoming's pension will go the way of pensions of Detroit and Illinois, which are already bankrupt. If we want Wyoming to still be a viable state at the next turn of the century, we can't let it go bankrupt. Wyoming needs to set the example and not saddle future generations with today's debt. Visit Wyoming2100.com for a few ideas on how we can avoid spending traps that are bankrupting so many other states. Wyoming2100.com. The long view, the right road.
Hi, this is Sal from the Liberal Clearinghouse, inviting you to come on down and get what you can before it all goes. Remember, the Liberal Clearinghouse is staffed by unemployed college students and Common Core dropouts. So it's pretty much self-serve down here. We have a wide selection of broken wind turbines, solar panels, unsold electric cars. Get them before they catch on fire. For the internet junkies, we have special deals on government-produced internet viruses, surveillance software, and crashed websites. Everything must go. Are you an unemployed doctor or a patient that can't afford an unemployed doctor? We have them both. We have abandoned HUD homes, abandoned tenant houses, abandoned skyscrapers, abandoned cities like Detroit, and abandoned websites like Obamacare. Hurry, hurry, hurry. We are borrowing money from the grandkids tomorrow so that you can afford the subsidies to purchase today. So come see the Liberal Clearinghouse today before it winds up on the scrap heap of tomorrow. Thank you.
So, yes, Glenn is pro-gun, but we only let him have one bullet, and we make him keep it in his pocket. Sound familiar?
Inside that man's body is a little child calling out for help.
Let's get back in there. Here's Glenn Woods.
You know, I can't wrap up this subject without And we got a lot to cover in the next hour and a half of the program here. So, but without going back to something I was saying earlier in this half hour, Ronald Reagan had it right, and just boggles my mind that people like Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama and John Kerry and other such Democrats never get it. Evil exists in the world. Evil it does. It exists in the world. And you can't sit down and play nicey nice. These people are worse than bullies. They're genocidal maniacs. In fact, what's happening with the group now known as PIGs, well, pseudo-Islamic genocidal sadists, that would be the group formerly known as ISIS, they're as worse as has come along in generations since the days of the Soviet Union. The only way you could possibly find anyone that's any worse than this, and even then it's a real close call, would be what's happening in North Korea right now. That's the only place I could think that's actually worse than what's happening with these terrorist organizations. And who's sponsoring all of this? Iran. And who just revealed that they have now longer range, more accurate missiles? Iran. And what do they want to put up on top of those missiles? What are the centrifuges for? Obviously. So what? You're going to sit down with Iran that sponsors genocidal death cults around the world, and has promised to destroy an entire nation, that being Israel, with nuclear weapons. And you're going to sit down and negotiate with them in good faith while their Secretary of State points at our Secretary of State and screams and cusses at him at the top of his lungs. And somehow out of that, you're going to come out with a treaty that's actually going to guarantee peace and security for the world? What kind of naive nutcases do we have in the Obama administration? I would love to have, if not, a lot of conservatives keep wishing for Ronald Reagan type to come back. And I understand where those conservatives are coming from. I want a Benjamin Netanyahu, if I could, please. Well, think of the condition of his country, how well defended it is, and to have a guy who personally has picked up weapons, and personally, when he was a young man, picked up weapons in the military, gone and rescued his people, has been wounded and got right back in action again. Just recently, we had another world leader in the Mideast that some people from that pilot was burned alive, got into his F-16 and led a squadron on a bombing raid. We're going to need that kind of strength, and I know it drives the left crazy, but we're going to need that kind of strength. And it's not just a matter of somebody who knows how to talk tough. Because even Obama can stand there and read the teleprompter where somebody has written a bunch of really tough words for him, and he can deliver the wording in a way that sounds really tough. But then he turns around and picks up his golf clubs and literally walks out the back door and plays another 9 holes. One of my favorite moments of Ronald Reagan, I remember this when I was a teenager at the time. Some American soldiers, some Americans, had been killed around the world in acts of terrorism. We found out that some of the terrorism was being sponsored by Libya. So Ronald Reagan got on TV one night and looked right into the camera, and he was speaking to Muammar Gaddafi. One more American dies in a bombing attack sponsored by your country. One more. Well, there was a disco bombing in Germany. We lost a couple of American soldiers in that one, and by God, some F-15s were flying over Libya, lickety-damn split. And they weren't just after some strategic targets. They bombed Muammar Gaddafi's house. The only reason the man didn't die right then was because he wasn't home. But it injured some of Gaddafi's kids, injured his wife, and can you imagine coming home to that wife? You're Muammar Gaddafi, you come home, your palace is half demolished, the wife and kids are injured, And now the wife wants to have a word with you. So after that, as long as Ronald Reagan was president, we didn't hear of any other attacks coming out of Libya. Things got real quiet. I've said it before. I'm sorry that the world is this way. I don't want the world to be this way. I want peace just like hardcore leftists want peace. When they talk about peace, I agree. I want peace too. But we're also going to have to understand the world that we live in. When you look at the terrorism in the Mideast right now, or across the world for that matter, what's hit Europe just recently, understand you're dealing with an end times death cult. This is what they want. It's quite literally an apocalyptic death cult. And they don't listen to reason. Neither does Iran. Well, the leaders of Iran are part of that death cult. And the only thing they understand, unfortunately, is their certain destruction if they don't get in line and play nice.
Hi, I'm Nick Gillespie with Reason TV, and today we're talking with Daniel Berninger. He is a former principal at ITXC, an early VoIP system, as well as Vonage, probably the best known VoIP system. He's now working at VCXC, which is trying to accomplish a transition from old telephone lines to IP only.
All IP network. Yeah.
Okay. We are talking today about the second dumbest thing that the FCC has gotten involved in lately, and it's not Title II for the Internet. It is something called RCC, or Rural Call Completion. What is that, and why should we be worried about it?
Right. So rural call completion is a FCC order trying to address complaints in rural areas that people are not getting calls. And so if you think about the telephone network, what it does is complete calls. You know, when you say a car, what does it do? It moves forward. Call completion is what the telephone network does. And so people are and should be concerned that all those calls get completed.
And this is, you know, the FCC has a technical definition for what counts as a rural call.
Right.
We'll say it's somewhere out where there aren't many people.
Right.
It tends to be on older lines and people using old dial-up service as opposed to VoIP or anything like that.
Right.
And a sizable number of calls, or a certain number of calls, aren't getting through.
Yeah.
Okay. So
well, we don't know how many. We've had complaints, but one of the issues is that we haven't quantified how big a problem it is.
But in looking into this, the FCC a couple of years ago, they ended up having a couple of consent decrees against companies like Windstream and Level 3, saying you guys aren't doing enough, you've got to pay a fine and try and make have better completion rates.
Right.
So the RCC order comes out, and what is the FCC saying that telephone companies now have?
Right, so the FCC did investigations, 3 or 4 investigations, and fined companies, and they said, well, this is taking too long. So can we automate this process? And so what they've asked is all telephone companies, literally, whether you're Skype or Verizon, AT&T, all companies in the United States of America to report on a quarterly basis whether or not their calls are completed.
On Tuesday,
all trillion calls.
Okay, and it's about a trillion calls
so
a
it
year.
May be, I don't think it's more than a trillion. It may be 925 billion.
Right.
I don't know, but for argument's sake.
And what they're saying is that your call completion rate, if you're a telephone company, to rural numbers has to be within 2% of your average call completion rate.
Right.
Otherwise,
you have to do an investigation and you get fined, et cetera. So part of the issue here is that the original investigations were triggered by complaints. You know, a customer believes they're not getting a phone call, that triggers a complaint. The problem with the order is that the FCC didn't like waiting for complaints, and so they're actually trying to use this data collection to find problems. And there's a bit of a problem there because the data, there's not enough information in the data for them to find problems.
And it's also now what this means is that the FCC is going to be compiling massive amounts of metadata, essentially, the same stuff that kind of freaked people out when the NSA was doing it.
Right. So the FCC will have rules, or has rules, about the carriers to collect that data and then to aggregate it and report summaries to the FCC on a quarterly basis.
You know, what's the harm in just having the FCC say, hey, you know what, just you're keeping records somewhere anyway, just give them to us?
Right. So a couple of things. One is that the data that the FCC gets just won't mean anything. They won't be able to extract problems. So if you think about the telephone network, it's this huge physical system. It's sort of a fabric that covers the planet. There are alarms and systems in there that sort of identifies problems. But those alarms and systems are really real-time, meant for, you know, the 10,000 staff that are sitting there staring at the screens all the time to detect problems. So when you don't get a call, you're really upset, but that event, no information there in terms of that they can say, well, that's a problem and that's not a problem.
It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Phone number, of course, to get involved in the action, 307-363-4093. That's 307-363-4093. Don't forget pretty much everything I'm talking about. And a whole lot more, you'll find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. Oh, by the way, for those people listening on Spreaker right now, and you know who you are, if you go to Bold Republic, you guys will find this you know how to do it immediately. Just go to Bold Republic, our page on Spreaker. We need 100 followers, and we're on iHeartRadio. We just got there, so we're just starting to get followers now. But so for everybody, I'm going to start with you guys. If you're already on Spreaker, you know how it works. Just go to the Bold Republic page, and if you can just follow the page, we get to 100. We're up on iHeartRadio, so now we'll have a second kind of app. Okay, so for those gun enthusiasts out there, well, there is victory from time. Well, there's actually a lot. We've won a lot over the past few years. Here's the latest.
Well, I like guns. I like the way they look. I like the shiny steel and the polished wood. I don't care if they're big or small. They're for sale, hell, I want them all. I like guns, I like guns, I like guns.
So everybody was all worried about those bullets that were going to be banned by the ATF. And by the way, let's go back to the argument once again. No government agency should ever have the right to write law. It's not, only Congress can do that. But that's what, so we have a fourth branch of government now writing law. And if they are going to write something as a law that nobody wants, really, that they, well, like the FCC just recently declaring the internet a utility, they shouldn't be allowed to do that. Neither Congress or the president or the courts knows how to stop them anymore. So we have a fourth branch of government. Here's the latest. Obama administration pulling back on a controversial proposal to ban a form of armor-piercing ammunition for the AR-15 that's commonly used. The ATF, by the way, there's calls out there just to disband the ATF altogether. But that's a whole nother discussion we could have. ATF said it would not seek to issue a final framework for the rule, which is a law to you and me, at this time, which means, you know, this is like, it's like a horror movie where you think the monster is killed, but at the last minute it always comes back. After receiving more than 80,000 comments on the proposed vast majority, which were negative. You spoke, we listened, said the ATF. Okay, victory for now, guys. But at some point, the ATF, the Obama administration, is just going to find another way to slip this sucker through. It's going to happen. Well, what happened this time is people spoke up. People got involved. People were mad as hell. So the agency backed off. We all know how this works. All we have to do is just wait a year or two when you and I aren't paying attention anymore, or they think we're not, and they'll just propose it in a different way. National Rifle Association and other gun rights groups assail the proposal, and we're joined by Republicans in demanding the withdrawal. Representative Bob Goodlate, Republican Virginia, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, said he's pleased that the Obama administration has abandoned its attack on the Second Amendment. See, I see it far worse than that. At what point, and we can find the answer to this, we can. At what point did Congress stupidly give power to the ATF to write law regulating what kind of ammunition you use? That should not be anywhere in their scope of power. I can understand giving the ATF the power to enforce existing laws, but who the hell thought it was a good idea to give the ATF the power to write law? That's the real problem here.
ScoldRepublic.com.
Excuse me, I wonder if you could help me find the baked beans.
Sure, let me take you to that.
What, really?
Well, yeah, this way.
I mean, you're actually helping me?
Sure, just follow me.
I'm in a grocery store, right?
Right.
Who actually gets help in one of these places?
Sir, this is Don's Supermarket in Gillette. Family owned and operated. Look, there's the owner right over there.
But he's actually helping somebody, personally.
I know, crazy, isn't it? How about some Roma tomatoes? 79 cents a pound. Tyson chicken breast fillets, $2.99 a pound. Get some toaster strudels for breakfast. 3 for $5. Red or green grapes, $2.19 a pound. Kraft macaroni and cheese, 99 cents a box. Here you go, sir. Baked beans. It's okay, it's okay. Let it out. Just let it out.
Really? I thought customer service was dead.
Not at Don's. Hey, are you going to Jack's Liquor with me on St. Patty's Day?
Yeah, I'm not sure. What's going on?
It's going to be great. They're making corned beef and cabbage, great drink specials, Irish strippers. It's going to be awesome.
Corned beef does sound good. Wait, did you say Irish strippers?
Yeah, they are great. Pretty cheap, too. I'll probably have a couple.
What?
$7.50s of rums, vodkas, liqueurs, creams on sale this month at Jack's.
So, about those Irish strippers.
Relax. They're mixed drinks. Although, I'm a little Irish.
Yeah!
Your adult daycare center, 302 East 2nd Street, Gillette, Wyoming.
I suppose you're planning a nice retirement, and you assume everything is paid for. But Wyoming didn't tell you. Who is paying for your pension?
I'm gonna owe lots of money. And it's your fault. I want to pay for this, but you're making me.
Find out more at Wyoming2100.com.
You could either spend $100 getting your phone fixed, or you could go ahead and spend $400 to replace it. At Selectel Wireless in Gillette, we fix phones. Most generally, what breaks is the digitizer or the LCD. This is from being dropped, being smashed, thrown against the wall. No, seriously, 9 times out of 10, people throw their phones. Well, we can fix that too. Save money, fix it, don't replace it. Come see us at Selectel Wireless, next to Office Depot in Gillette, Wyoming. But if you do need a new phone, we have those too.
Yeah, it seems the Higgs transponder flagellated your subtwell drive and capacitated your moron circuit.
Does your mechanic speak another language?
So I figured we reversed the polarity on the latch trigger and transposed the Weller circuit, and that should do it.
Some mechanics take advantage of the fact that you can't speak or understand them.
Yep, this is going to do it, but it's going to be expensive.
But at Ideal Auto, we speak your language.
This broke. Me fix. Affordable.
Now, anybody can understand that. Get your car repaired with the people who speak your language. Ideal Auto, 2901 Dogwood Avenue, Gillette, Wyoming. 307-686-2259.
Honey, Mommy needs to borrow some money.
What, again? But what happened to my birthday money that Grandma gave me that you borrowed?
Christmas is coming soon. I'm sure you'll get more from her.
And I caught Dad in my piggy bank the other night. What's going on?
Well, since the federal government is determined to spend all of your money before you've earned it, we just figured we'd get there first.
You spent all my inheritance, haven't you?
You're young. You'll have plenty of time to earn it back.
This public service announcement is brought to you by Bold Republic Financial Services. Well, we're advising you to spend all of your children's money and grandchildren's and great-grandchildren's before the government gets hold of it. Because if they get a hold of it first, there'll be nothing left for you.
I'm putting you two into a government rest home when you get old.
Oh, no, honey. I'll be homeless long before that.
Come on, don't act like you don't know how this works. Room talks to himself, and guess what? You're the voices in his head. It's really creepy, but it works. Let's get back in there. Glenn Woods is back on the air.
So for everybody watching on the video stream, I'm about to pop up something right now on your monitor. Just go ahead and take a look at it, and we'll get on to the rest of the news. Here we go. Ready? Here we go. I'll explain it to everybody who's listening on radio stations and on the Spreaker, on their apps, on their phones, and so on. So here's Hillary at today's press conference. Hillary Clinton at today's press conference trying to convince us that she wanted just one telephone and all of her email addresses would go through it, because if she had 2 email addresses, she would have to have 2 telephones. And everybody listening to me right now knows that that is absolute crap. It's nonsense. Obviously, how many email addresses would you like to have? You can have them all on your phone. It's not a problem. As many as you want. Sky's the limit. So someone took a picture of Hillary at that press conference and wrote, "I can't handle 2 email accounts at once. Please elect me as your next president." I love the internet. People had that done and up and on the internet like as soon as her press conference was over. Okay, so President Obama, who cares about the national debt, went on vacation, 2014 Christmas vacation in Hawaii. Can you guess how much it cost? The 2014 Christmas vacation in Hawaii, which, by the way, I would also, if you would you like to try to guess what the carbon footprint would be? Yeah. Trust me. Let me tell you the carbon footprint first. I'm not going to tell you the number. I'm going to give you an analogy. Just you as an individual and your automobile driving around to work and for pleasure, you pumped less CO2 into the air in 2014 than Obama pumped into the air on his Christmas vacation in 2014. And yet the president cares about the environment, he says. Judicial Watch says, oh, by the way, how much did you spend on your vacation on 2014? Well, let's say if you had a Christmas vacation, something like that. And well, let me ask another question with that, because I think this next question is really important. When you spent money, the last time you went on vacation, whose money did you spend? Did you spend your money on your vacation, or did you spend somebody else's money? Now, for some listening to me right now, you might have been taken on vacation by a friend, a loved one. Somebody might have said, hey, babe, let's go on vacation together, and they paid for the whole trip. But you see, that was voluntary because they wanted to take you out for a good time. And so they offered to take you on vacation, volunteering to spend their own money. Well, here, let me put it this way. The owner of our radio stations, of the radio stations that are out of South Dakota and Sundance, Wyoming, Carl, just recently went on a vacation to Hawaii. And he took his sweetheart. Carl paid for everything. Carl voluntarily spent money on his woman. They had a great time. And they spent far less money than Obama did on his Christmas vacation. You see what I'm leading up to here, folks? Because President Obama, I'm about to tell you how much money he spent. And it wasn't his money. It was your money. It was the money of future generations that they will have to pay off. And nobody got a choice in the matter. It was not like Carl, who earned the money and voluntarily spent it on somebody that he wanted to. No, this money was taken from you. Obama family spent 2014 Christmas vacation in Hawaii, cost to taxpayers $3,672,798 in transportation expenses alone. $3,672,798 in transportation expenses alone. Now, that's just for one Hawaiian vacation. Now, to be fair about it, I'd be this upset at any president who spent this kind of money. But I'm especially upset when a president who claims, oh, I'm reducing spending. I am. Oh, and we all have to reduce our carbon footprint. I wonder how much of this money the president plans to reimburse you and I. No, don't die laughing on that one. You know that's never going to happen. Okay, I'm sorry I put it out there. You got about 3 minutes while our affiliate radio stations take a break. Go get some aspirin. I'm sorry I brought it up.
The controversy surrounding Hillary Clinton's use of personal email is in full swing, and the GOP is on the attack since August of last year. One America's Patrick is in Washington with more.
Press Secretary Josh Earnest has been under a barrage of questioning all week as Hillary Clinton's de facto speaker. After all, as of now, he's one of the only administration officials out front. The only problem is that it's still unclear where President Obama stands on the issue. Did he receive emails from a personal email account of Secretary Clinton's? Did Attorney General Eric Holder receive and/or respond to emails from a personal account? The Department of Justice and the White House aren't saying. Of course, Hillary Clinton broke the silence via Twitter.
A tweet is not an answer.
I spoke with Rafi Williams, Deputy Press Secretary for the Republican National Committee, about their response to Hillary mail in a letter sent to the State Department.
And that's why we issued the letter from our chief counsel to the State Department's IG, prompting questions that they should be asking. Did other people know about this? When did this happen? What was the policy when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State? And how did she run afoul of it? Because American people really deserve to know the answers on these questions.
For the RNC and for most of the conservative base, this may be the 1-2 punch that they've been looking for. RNC Chairman Reince Priebus says, quote, "This revelation follows news that the Clinton Foundation accepted foreign donations while Hillary was Secretary of State. It makes you wonder, did she use the private emails so she could conduct diplomacy and fundraising at the same time? Of course, this doesn't just fall on Hillary. Her husband's past discrepancies add just as much fuel to the fire for Republicans who are hungry for the 2016 White House.
This latest controversy with the emails here plays into a larger trend that the Clintons have suffered from, where they're secretive, where they are manipulative, and they aren't willing to be forthcoming or transparent with their actions.
Well, there is no secret that the Obama administration taunts itself as the most transparent administration in history. And for now, they're saying former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and her team have complied with the law. But one can't help but wonder if government officials familiar with that law from Clinton's days at the State Department are looking back in their inbox history and wondering why they didn't notice, and if they did, why they didn't step up and say something. In Washington, Patrick Hushin, One American News.
Bold Republic Radio Show. Last 7 minutes of this hour of the program. One more hour to go. Don't forget that pretty much everything I talk about, and a whole lot more, you'll find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. Also, don't forget there's an app for that. You can now listen to the program all for your phone. Just go to your app store and type in Bold Republic. If you're somebody who, well, it's for free. It's free. You can listen to the show anytime you want. For those people listening on Spreaker right now, I'm going to start the little campaign here. You already know how Spreaker works. That's how you're listening to me. Could you go to my page, which is the Bold Republic page, and just follow it? Because if we get 100 followers, we're on iHeartRadio, and then we have a second app. So that'd just be really cool. And thanks if you do that. I really appreciate it. So Caleb's been hanging on through the break. Hi, Caleb. What you got for me?
Hey, I had a question for you since you're such a word master.
Yeah.
I'd like you to do me a favor and explain to me what a vacation is. I think I've heard of them in the past, but I don't know that I've ever experienced one in my adult life.
Yeah. Okay, now here's how this works, Caleb. Caleb is asking what a vacation is because Caleb is one of these guys who gets up early in the morning and breaks his back every single day to keep food on the table out there. And he's not a moocher. He's not getting anything for free. So here's what a vacation is, Caleb. Believe it or not, you wake up in the morning and you don't have to be anywhere. That's the first part. Now, that would normally be known as just a day off. But imagine if you got 14 of those days in a row. And so you decided, since you had so much time, you were going to go to some part of the world or the country that you had never been to and just spend time enjoying yourself and having a good time. And some people, Caleb, that are fortunate enough to work for companies that can provide this, they still get paid by their boss while they're away. It's called a paid vacation, Caleb, okay? You should try one someday.
I might have to, but it sounds more like a pipe dream than anything.
Yeah.
And now, since I paid for the president to go on his vacation,
yeah.
Who do I need to speak to maybe have someone who pay me to go on vacation? That would be, I mean, I don't think my employer wants it because he likes me moving the truck so he's making money. Okay,
Caleb, here's what, and your phone's starting to break up, so I'm going to, as soon as I'm done answering your question, I'm going to hang up and let you go, just because you're starting to fade in and up. I got the gist of what you're doing there. Here's what I suggest you do, Caleb. See, the President of the United States took an all-expense paid vacation to Hawaii, costing over $3.5 million. 3.7 some million dollars. Caleb, you paid for that. Not in its entirety. The cost was spread between you and your kids and other generations. So what I suggest now, Caleb, is that you get a hold of the President of the United States. I would write him a letter and just explain to him, since I have paid for every single one of your damn vacations, it's about time that you paid for one of mine. And just let him know it's going to cost about this much, and here's where I plan to go. And I'm sure, Caleb, in no time at all, the check will be in the mail. I think it's only fair. If we are all going to get together as the American public and pay for Obama's vacation with his family at $3.7 million and want a hell of a carbon footprint, at least the least that Obama can do is send Caleb to the Cayman Islands or someplace like that. Send him on a ski trip somewhere. Send him someplace warm, since we're in the middle of winter up here, something like that. The least the president can do. All right, let's go to Utah real quick. I gotta get, DJ, you're right. I gotta get them on the show. Here's the latest from this. So there are some states out there like Utah where most of the land is owned by the federal government, and the federal government was supposed to have coughed up that land to the state a long time ago. They had promised to give all of the land over to the state. Now, over the decades, states like Utah, which are almost completely owned by the federal government, we found that there's all sorts of natural resources on or under that land. Oil, gas, coal, uranium, but also rare earth minerals. There's all sorts of ways to make money off of this. There's all sorts of resources there. North Dakota shows you what happens when the federal government isn't around and people are actually able to work for a living. So the state of Utah decided, well, fine. Well, we were told that we were going to get our land, so we're just going to take it. Utah Representative Kevin Stratton stated intrepidly, we're not trying to take back the land. You can't take back something that was already yours. Issue approximately, well, he's transferring the land from the federal government to the state of Utah. You can't take something. You can't take away from the federal government something that wasn't there. He says, I think the rest of the states was granted their land. Why not us? So, Legislative Commission released a 26-page request for proposals seeking outside lawyers to make sure that this was done properly. And that's where they're at right now. Utah enacted the Transfer of Public Lands Act. No other Western state so far has done that. Meanwhile, Utah's deadline for the federal government to hand over the land has passed. Okay, we will find out what happens next. Now, I'm wondering, do you live in a state? How much federal land does your state, or how much of your state does the federal government own, is a better way to put it? And what if your state did the same thing? Everybody's watching Utah right now.
I'm talking about it again. Why? Because the left is. They lie. So I come in to help set the record straight. This time it's concerning Angela Davis coming to speak on the USC campus. The USC College Republicans, whom Jennifer Ann Massey is the president of, expressed their displeasure at this. And some students climbed out of Angela Davis's natural, having a hissy fit. Again, liberals don't understand the balance of freedom. Angela has the right to speak her mind. And if students on that campus extend an invitation for her to use their campus to share her views, so be it. The other side of that balance is that some may not agree with what she says, and they have the right to express that. Lord knows you liberals go all out to express your disagreements with people, despite all that tolerance and acceptance and all that so-called open-minded preaching y'all do. You even push until people cancel engagements, like Condoleezza Rice did at Rutgers. But of course, liberals always feel that their mean-spirited, hateful, and bigoted protests are always justifiable. You guys are true Democrats. The KKK felt like their bigotry was justifiable too. The Nazis felt their bigotry was justifiable also. You're just like them. All the way down to your anti-Semitic anti-Zionism, all the way down to your socialistic sympathies. And the Nazis were socialists. You lefties try to slander Israel to be apartheid. If you hate apartheid so much, why do liberals insist on siding with Democrats? Democrats instituted apartheid in America. Oh, but that was in the past. We can't bring up the past. And we can't bring up Angela Davis's past. Meanwhile, Angela Davis makes her living off of her perpetual indictment of America's past. We don't bring up the past. You do. We just correct you on it when you do. And the thing I don't get is if people are going to be so hung up about America's bigoted past, why don't you hold Democrats responsible in that grudge? The Democrat Party is the party that is responsible for the institutionalized bigotry that has so deeply scarred this country. Yet you suckers are totally on their farm. As I talked about before in my audiobook, Weapon of Mass Destruction, contrary to what Angela Davis asserts, capitalism is not the power of corruption she claims it is. She's an agent for the most corrupt system there is, communism. People are suckered, if not coerced, into thinking communism equals equality. It doesn't. Supposedly, it does away with classes, and everyone lives in a utopia. You cannot achieve this without heavy-handed government that will murder people by the millions to achieve this system. Oh, but that's not corrupt. Governments wage genocide, not corporations. Actually, there is a state-sponsored corporation that is an agent of genocide, and that's Planned Parenthood, who is operated by socialist and communist sympathizers. When the government takes what you earn and distributes it to others so nobody can cross the state's ceiling they've imposed upon the people, that's corrupt. The people will always feel that others should be paying more of their so-called fair share. Communism is corrupt because the people are never satisfied and they will bleed each other dry. That's corrupt. When the state keeps draining the fruits of people's labor under the guise of equality for everybody, the income earners get fed up and will resort to criminal means to make money and hide their income from the ravenous state. That's how you end up with crime syndicates. Or when people try to leave, the state won't allow them to. In capitalism, corruption is reduced. The state is not allowed to take what you earn and can't pull some self-righteous nonsense on you to convince you of why they should be allowed to take more of what you earn. The job creator has more money to hire, giving people a chance to make an honest living. Don't let the communists give you some crap about how the CEO makes enough money and they could pay their employees more. That is nothing but greed talking. They don't think about the other things these so-called rich, greedy CEOs are paying for. They just think the CEO pays their entry-level employees at their businesses pennies and pocket the rest and live in luxury. Wrong? Even if they are living in luxury, luxury still costs. It ain't free. And when that rich CEO is paying for his or her luxuries, they're paying for jobs. They want to eat at a fancy restaurant, so what? They just help keep people employed at that restaurant. They want to have a private jet, so what? They got to pay people to keep that jet operational. That's jobs. They want fancy cars, that keeps dealerships in business. That's jobs. Oh, and they usually also give more in charitable donations with their own money. Who are you being charitable to while you're so busy judging? Capitalism isn't about how much money you make. It's about what the government isn't allowed to take. And they're not allowed to violate your right to property. Your income is your property. Equality isn't in the government taking and taking to satisfy the bogus idea of equality that nobody is ever satisfied with. You're going about it backwards. Equality is when the government realizes that the only number they can take that amounts to equality is 0.
Bold Republic.
Not negotiating behind closed doors, but bringing all parties together and broadcasting those negotiations on C-SPAN so that the American people can see what the choices are. Because part of what we have to do is enlist the American people in this process.
These negotiations will be on C-SPAN. And so the public will be part of the conversation and will see the choices that are being made.
We will work on this process publicly, streaming over the net.
I'm in this race to tell the lobbyists in Washington that their days of setting the agenda are over. They will not work in my White House. That's why lobbyists set the agenda, and that's why they won't drown out your voices anymore when I am President of the United States of America. Having inherited a $1 trillion deficit, it will take a long time for us to close. We need to focus on what we need to move the economy forward, not on what's nice to have. That's why on Monday I held a fiscal summit to come up with a plan to put us on a more sustainable path.
Irreverent, but honest and tastefully tacky somehow. Here comes another hour of insensitivity training with Glenn Woods.
Yeah, you were promised a lot of things when it came to climate change or global warming or whatever they're calling it this week, and you weren't delivered a whole lot. Wait to hear what's up next. It's the Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. As always, phone number if you want to get involved in the action, 307-363-4097, 363-40. Everything I'm talking about and a whole lot more, you'll find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. So, interesting news from the New England states. You're going to love this.
If we had some global warming, if we had some global warming, it wouldn't be 20 below. It wouldn't be 20 below. If we had some global warming, if we global warming, I wouldn't be shoveling snow. I wouldn't be shoveling that blasted
And boy, have they been shoveling a lot of snow in the New England states, as you've been told over here. Now, you were told, I want you to think back a ways, that, and Al Gore is one of the ones that told you this, that by now we weren't supposed to have much for polar ice caps in the North or South Pole during the summer at the North Pole and during the summer at the South Pole. And yet, over the past few years, the ice caps have been expanding. Well, for those people watching on the video stream, take a look at your video right now. I'll explain it to everybody listening on radio stations and on the app. Those are giant ice chunks that washed ashore on Cape Cod. Now, there's a picture of a person standing on the rocky beach of Cape Cod with a big ice chunk in front of that person. Looks to be an average size adult, and that person is reaching their arm up in order to touch the top of the big chunk of ice. Boston newspaper. Historic winter of 2015 has left giant chunks of ice on Cape Cod National Seashore. Cape Cod photographer captured images of a person standing next to the massive pieces of ice that washed ashore over the past couple of days. In fact, I think I've got another picture here that I'm going to share with you as well. And if you want to see these, by the way, folks, just go to boldrepublic.com. There's the other picture. This is a person walking in between the big chunks of ice that are on the beach. And these massive chunks of ice, snow and ice, are just piled above the person walking through the ice flow that are on all of this on the beaches of Cape Cod. The chief meteorologist in the area says this could be a once-in-a-generation event due to the extraordinary amount of ice on the Massachusetts Bay. Fisher says, this meteorologist, the ice won't be around for long. There have been several remarkable images left from the record-setting winter, including nearly frozen waves. Now, to describe the nearly frozen waves, you guys ever, we've had a smoothie, an ice smoothie, and a Slurpee? Okay, so you've gone to the 7-Eleven and gotten a Slurpee, right? That's what the waves look like in Massachusetts. Slurpee like that. Now these massive chunks of ice all along the beach that are taller than a human being, and probably, I would say, if you drove a big SUV, bigger like a Yukon, bigger than your SUV. All right. Now, that's just part of the news that I have for you. That's just part of it. This is not what you were told. You were also told that by this time, snow would be such a rare event that we would have to explain to children what snow was. And that was supposed to have happened about a decade ago, but here we are. Okay, now, Dr. Roy Spencer was looking up some summer data for the U.S. Corn Belt. And Dr. Roy Spencer noticed there was no warming trend, nothing. There was no warming trend over the past century. You were told that there was a massive warming trend, but there was no warming trend over the past century. But that was before the temperatures were adjusted by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Now the same data shows suddenly there's a lot of warming, This is why, obviously we know why this is suspicious, but let's explain why this is suspicious just for the fun of it. How come every time they adjust data, for whatever reason they claim to be adjusting temperature data, it's always adjusted up? Bad enough that their climate models don't work. Climate models are showing we were supposed to be roasting by now. That simply hasn't happened. I'm living in Wyoming. The area that I'm living in right now is supposed to be as sandy as the Iraqi desert, and it's not. Rivers in this area, like the Platte River, for those of you living over in Casper, it's supposed to be bone dry by now. Platte River is not bone dry. In fact, just a few years ago, it overran its banks. The mountains, like the Bighorn Mountains, which are within sight of me, are not supposed to have any snow on them according to their climate models. There's snow all over them in the middle of summertime. So over the past decade, the Corn Belt of the United States was supposed to be really warm, but the data that came out of the readings there showed no warming for 10 years. So NOAA got in there and adjusted the data. Suddenly there's warming. Spencer, a climate scientist at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, said that the National Climate Data Center made large adjustments to the past summer temperatures for the U.S. Corn Belt, lowering the past temperatures to make them cooler, adjusting past temperatures downward to create significant warming trends. So let me explain how he did this. It's not that he took the data for the past decade and increased it to make it warmer. Instead, he went to past data and made it colder, so today looks warmer. It's a lot like when Al Gore did his video, The Inconvenient Truth, or Inconvenient Lie, if you will. Well, okay. That showed over the years, just a little like wavy line, and then all of a sudden we got industrial in the 1900s, and the temperature skyrocketed. They erased past data, like the medieval warming period, like the Little Ice Age that came after it. They just erased that data as if that never happened. So that's what happened in the Corn Belt. They're just denying that there was ever warm temperatures in the past. Quoting here, I was updating a U.S. Corn Belt summer temperature prediction database from the website, and all of a sudden the no warming trend since 1900 turned into a significant warming trend, he wrote in his blog, adding that the adjustments made for warming trend in the region increased from 0.2 degrees Fahrenheit per century to 0.6 degrees per century. The temperature data downloaded by Spencer March 2014 looked quite different from the data downloaded last month. That's because they constantly adjusted its data to correct for errors, they say. But critics have said these adjustments seem to always increase the warming trend. Being the co-developer of the climate database for satellite temperatures, she says, I understand the need to make adjustments for temperature errors, but when you can quantitatively demonstrate the errors exist, he said. In other words, when you can prove that there was some kind of an error in there, then you make an adjustment for it. He says, but a variety of errors in data measurement and collection would typically have both positive and negative signs, Spencer noted, adding that the corrections for such errors when calculating satellite data temperature, even if they tend to cancel each other out, well, in contrast, he says the thermometer data apparently needed to be adjusted in such a way that almost always leads to greater and greater warming trends. Interesting how that happens. Spencer is not the first to notice or criticize NOAA for this. Since the blogger Stephen Goddard, his pen name he's been using for years, which is government climate agencies have been tampering with the temperature data, was his blog to create a significant warming trend where none actually exists. Quote, they pull every trick in the book to turn U.S. cooling trends into warming. The raw data shows cooling since the 1920s. They'll somehow turn that into warming. Goddard said he has been the past has been cooling, they say, because they keep getting there and adjusting the data to make the past look cooler. He says, does a hockey stick of adjustment to revise the trend? I mean, this includes cooling the past time of observation in rural data, in urban temperatures, and doing almost nothing to compensate for urban heat. So in other words, when you build a town, when you build a city, you're going to have like an urban heat island. And you know this, parking lots and rooftops and so on. Okay. Quote, 2 years ago, scorching summer of 2012. July 1936 lost its place as the leaderboard, and July 2012 became the hottest month on record in the United States. Now, as if by magic, July 1936, why, that's suddenly the hottest on record again. The past and the present and the future all seem to be adjustable in their world. You can't get any clearer proof than Noah's adjustment of past temperatures. This isn't just some issue with guiding anomalies, he says, or methods. It's about NOAA not being able to present historical climate information accurately. So in other words, we need to be suspicious. I am. Every time they get in there and start fiddling with the data, they find some way to erase. Again, just take a look at Al Gore's hockey stick graph. Where is the medieval warming period? Where is the Maunder minimum? Where is the Little Ice Age? Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth didn't adjust current temperatures to make things seem warmer. They adjusted past temperatures to make it look like global warming was happening.
Glenn Woods, BoldRepublic.com.
Are you looking for employment in the energy industry? True companies are hiring. True companies consist of several companies in the oil, gas, transportation, and agricultural business. Black Hills Trucking is currently hiring mechanics in Gillette and Casper, Wyoming. Bell Foods Pipeline Company is currently hiring gaugers in Gillette, Wyoming, and North Dakota areas. Roustabouts in Wyoming and pipeline controllers in Casper, Wyoming. These are full-time positions with competitive salary, 100% funded profit-sharing plan, vacation, life insurance, family health, tuition, reimbursement, 401k, employer match, safety awards, and incentives. Must be able to pass an employment drug screening. You can view all current positions at truecosts.com. That's TRUECOS.com. True companies are an affirmative action, equal opportunity employer.
Hey, Frank, you're actually gonna fall for that hook, are you? I'm just so hungry, and the lure looks so good. Yeah, well, just look up through the ice hole at that guy. Hey, he's got all the latest gear, doesn't he? He's so warm and comfortable, and the top window sportsman clothing, and fishing pole, and the best lures, nice comfortable chairs, coolers, warmers. He's got it all. I can't stand it. I'm gonna bite the hook. Are you seriously gonna fall for that? No, it's just that it has to be warmer up there above the ice than down here in the water. Yeah, and that frying pan he's got on the fire's a lot more.
Rocky Mountain Discount Sports has everything that the ice fisherman needs for the winter. Lines and lures, rods and reels. Special outfits to keep you warm, tents to keep the wind away, and the right kind of lures for winter fishing. Rocky Mountain Discount Sports. 4706 South Douglas Highway in Gillette, Wyoming. Open Monday through Saturday, 8 till 9, Sunday 9 to 6.
Hello, Americans. This is Rod with your local American-made store here in Gillette, Wyoming, where it's always made right here in the USA. Have you seen our stainless steel art? It's beautiful. Yes, and he will do custom. Framed artwork. Check out our selection. Top-of-the-line stuffed olives, flavored olive oils. And yes, we have toys and Okabashi sandals. Free pocket constitution with purchase. We are the solution for this great nation. Get informed. Don't forget your veterans. God bless America, and buy American. It matters. MyMadeInAmericaStore.com.
I don't understand the Supreme Court Obamacare decision.
Well, it's simple. The individual mandate was struck down. You cannot be fined for not having health insurance. It is unconstitutional.
Oh, well, that's a relief.
But you can be taxed.
But wait, isn't that the same as a fine?
No, it's not a mandate. It's a tax.
So I don't have to pay the tax?
If you don't pay the tax, you are fined.
But isn't that a mandate?
No, it's a tax.
Wait, so a mandated fine is unconstitutional?
Yes.
But I have to pay the tax or I'm fined.
Right.
But doesn't that make the tax a mandate?
No, it's a tax, not a mandate.
Who thought of this?
No, who voted against it?
Who?
Exactly.
Wait, what's the name of the guy who thought of this?
No, he voted against it too.
Hold on.
No, hold on is on third base.
What?
He voted against it.
Who did?
Exactly.
I just want to know the name of the guy who thought of this lame idea of calling an unconstitutional mandate a tax as if there's any difference.
It's not a mandate, it's a tax.
Well, what if I decide not to pay it?
Then you're fine. It's mandate.
Yet the tax is not a mandate.
No, it's not.
Oh, for the love of the Messiah.
No, he's in the White House.
When you dance like nobody is watching. And when you call Glenn, talk like the NSA and IRS are listening. Because most likely they are.
Guess who?
And they haven't had their daily dose of irreverent, insulting sarcasm today. We're counting on you. Call the show now.
So I just came across the story while you guys were listening to those fine commercials. I came across a story that asks a real simple question. Can conservatives and liberals get along, get together, live together? All right, I look at it really simple this way. And I'm going to get rid of liberals. Can authoritarians get along with individualists? There, how's that? It's real simple. As long as you understand you can't tell me what to do, and the money that I worked hard for and earned belongs to me, you have no right to it. My property belongs to me. You have no right to it. That includes not just my physical property, but my intellectual property. As long as you can understand that, we'll get along just fine. So, if you want to live in some collectivist society where either you are a person of authority that gets to tell other people what to do, or you want a person of authority telling you what to do and controlling your property, if you want to live that way, fine. You want government-run universal health care? Fine. Start a program and do it. As long as you understand you are not going to take my money to run that program and I don't have to participate, then we'll get along just fine. Okay? I'm out to live my own life. Oh, by the way, this is not a debate or a discussion. So you know. So I came across this story today and I thought, oh, here we go already. Chelsea Clinton. Somebody asked Chelsea Clinton, would she consider a life in politics? And she said, you know, I would consider a life in politics. The headline reads simply as this: Chelsea Clinton would absolutely, she says, consider a life in politics. Okay, now, trust me when I tell you my criticism is not going to be what you think it's going to be. I had a problem. I don't know Chelsea personally. You and I don't, unless you're someone who's actually met her. I don't know anything about her, okay? I just remember, what was it, the Today Show, was it, the NBC? What was that, picked her up as a reporter? And what were her qualifications as a reporter? Absolutely none. So how well did she do on network television? She bombed. Why did she get the job? Well, because they thought if they hired Chelsea Clinton with the name Clinton, it would improve the ratings. She was so bad, it didn't. I have a hard time for any job, for any position, hiring somebody who has no idea how to do the job, like the current president of the United States, who showed up completely unqualified for the job. So now you see the results of that. Get somebody who's qualified for the job. So that's one reason I'd rather not see Chelsea get involved in politics. She would only be in politics because of what her name is. She has no qualification. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I can see, she isn't qualified to do anything at this point in her life. She has no experience in anything. All she has is the Clinton name. Okay, so let's say she runs for office anyway. Now I got another problem here. And I'm not picking on the girl personally because I don't know her. I have just had enough. I'm done. I'm over it with political royalty. In other words, the Bushes, for example, the Clintons, the Kennedys. That's enough of that. We're not supposed to have a political class in this country. You know who's supposed to be running for office? You. No, you. All right, let's say Joe Bubba, who's driving down the highway right now because he's a truck driver for a living. He finally gets sick of where his country's heading, so he runs for office, and he becomes the next senator of his state. Good for him. That's who's supposed to be there. It's the career politicians that's the problem right now, and the career bureaucrats. We see who and what they are. When the current Republican Congress can't even shut down the IRS, can't put the brakes on the EPA. When any government agency, like the FCC, can go ahead and seize control of the internet, renaming it a utility and then regulating it, and the Republicans in Congress don't know that they can shut that noise down today, now. Why not? Why can't they figure it out? Because they're part of the political class. They've been doing this for how long now? And there's the problem. We don't need any more political class. We don't need any more political royalty showing up. So here's Chelsea Clinton asked a question, would you consider running for office? I got a better question. Would anyone would anybody in America consider voting anymore for political royalty? Now, to answer that question in part, I got some good news for you. You saw what happened with our current president. He was given to America on rock star status and was elected as a rock star with no qualifications. Two stories I came across today. One of them by Rick Moran was put online by the American Thinker. It's on my website. Go to my reading assignment page at boldrepublic.com. You'll see part of the story. It links you back to the American Thinker. People giving up on Washington? Story starts. Annual poll sponsored by the National Journal and Allstate Insurance finds Americans losing faith in Washington, D.C. to solve problems, while believing that the state and local governments are better equipped to handle important issues. Hot damn, I'm glad to see that. More and more people are looking away from Washington, D.C. to solve their problems. Now, the next step, the next obvious step is more and more people turn away from government in general and look to themselves to solve problems is what I'm really after here. But Washington has failed people so spectacularly, both political parties, that according to this poll anyway, people have had about enough. Well, good. Now, the next problem is going to be, and actually it shouldn't be too much of a problem. It's just, well, it just involves the American people finally waking up and doing it, is to wrestle that control away from Washington, D.C. and give it back to the local community. Okay? And then here's the next part of that. When there's a city council meeting, people in the town actually show up. That's the next step. But enough with the career politicians, enough with royalty. We're not supposed to have a political class, not in America.
I'm Scott Ott, and here's a thought. You know, I hate to discriminate, but for the purposes of this video, I'd like to speak only with my fellow members of the blank community. Now, the rest of you can hang around if you want to, and perhaps it'll make you more sensitive to the needs and demands of the blank community, but I can understand if it would make you feel awkward. If anyone understands awkward, it's us blanks, and you know who you are. You're not a member of the gay community or the African American community or the Puerto Rican community or the Muslim, Sikh, or transgender community. You may be a Christian, but you would never think to describe yourself as a member of the Christian community. That's because I'm not talking about who your friends are or who you hang out with or even about any actual organization you may be part of. Being a member of the blank community is something you inherit by virtue of your birth, simply by not being born into any other community, and of course by not transitioning into any community which you were not born into. By being a member of the blank community, you are entitled to mostly a list of grievances. We're still working on that list of grievances, and we'll let you know as soon as we're done, but mostly we're just tired of being ignored. You know, we're planning a series of rallies to build awareness of blank issues, and we'll have that list of issues very soon as well. The other thing you get as a member of the blank community is a spokesman, and that's me, because that's what I do. It's me. No, you didn't even know we had a spokesman, so it can't be you. No, we don't need to take a vote on it. It's me because that's who it is. So if the news media needs someone to talk to about blank needs, blank issues, or blank grievances, I'll be the one doing most of the talking. In fact, I've actually started a nonprofit organization. So if you're sick of the way the needs of the blank community are being ignored and massively underfunded, if you can make a contribution to this nonprofit organization, I'll make sure that the media and the public and your congressman know just how sick of it you are. Now, don't worry if you don't have a lot of money, because you don't have to give to be part of the blank community. And in fact, I'm the spokesman for everyone in the blank community, whether they give or not. Above all, remember that you're not alone. Your fellow blanks are out there living the day-to-day blank experience in largely inadvertent solidarity with you. Together, we blanks can change whatever it is we're not entirely happy with at the moment. I'm Scott Ott, and there's a thought.
Frank Underwood. He's a leader, a mentor, a lover of animals. He's a passionate advocate for public transportation, yet still volunteers to be a designated driver. Frank cares about our military. He cares about his staff. He cares about doing the right thing the right way. Frank knows the meaning of a hard, honest day's work, and he cut off Gwyneth Paltrow's head and sent it to Brad Pitt in a cardboard box. Is Frank Underwood tough enough to take on Vladimir Putin? Bitch, please. He once stabbed Superman. Frank Underwood. He put Gwyneth Paltrow's head in a box.
No, Glenn, it doesn't matter if you're part owner of the company. No cigars in the studio. Oh, what is that smell? Put your shoes back on. I don't want to smell that. Look, if you want good talent, you have to put up with some bad habits. Let's get back in there with the original bad habit boy, Glenn Woods.
It's the last half hour-ish of the program, Bold Republic Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget pretty much everything I'm talking about, a whole lot more. You can find it on my website, which is boldrepublic.com. So, okay, to give you some hope. Look, it's a lot of bad news I give you every single day, and you gotta have a little hope out there, right? Last story should give you a little spark of hope. I'm not big on polls, but if the poll is correct, more and more Americans are just sick and tired and fed up with federal government control over their lives. And all the federal government wants to do is just keep going after more control of your life. So they've had enough. They want more local control. Then there's this young lady. Headline is, Student Blasts Her College. Thought police, she says, and political correctness. It's reached a level of craziness. This young lady shows you what the future generation can be. We need, and so I think that she is speaks for a lot of young people, I think, because I see in campuses across America. When you look across America, students have had enough with free speech zones, for example. They're protesting free speech zones. Just recently, University of California, a student body of 6 people, no American flags in the communist area. I almost said communist area. Pretty much was a communist area because it's the most offensive of them all. But no flags, no American flags because it might upset people. It's offensive. And, of course, that was immediately struck down. You're allowed to put the American flag up there now. So there are students out there who are standing up for freedom and liberty because, look, Americans at any age don't like being told what to do. So this young lady, here's her story. A Pittsburgh high school, now college student, who in 2013 gained national attention for her op-ed dealing with rejection from her top choices for college, which placed premium value of diversity, hobby-rich resume, is now back in a new op-ed in what she's classifying as the thought police. She is Susie Lee Weiss, now a freshman at the University of Michigan. She wrote an essay Sunday in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette titled, "I Was Ridiculed by the Thought Police." Subtitle, Political Correctness on Campus has reached the level of crazy, and for using that word, I am a bigot. She's absolutely right. Here's a student that's just had enough of political correctness. She described the campus-wide initiative in which students were told to avoid using words that are not inclusive, the mandatory sessions that discourage extending the wish of Merry Christmas, for example, and a freshman seminar in which her friend was lambasted by the lecturer for being a white heterosexual man from Georgia. See, because obviously, well, look, the moment you say someone's a white heterosexual from Georgia, the liberals get an immediate connotation. Immediately, they know exactly who you are and what you are. And you will be damned for it. And yet they don't see themselves as racist or bigoted. Well, calling the guy, you're white, right away, you're a white Southerner. See, that's racial bigotry right there. You're a white Southern male. Gender bias there. You're a white do they not see in their own words how hypocritical they are? Let me do that again so we can see the hypocrisy here. Because they tell us that we're not to be racist. Okay? You shouldn't assume anything about where somebody is from. You shouldn't infer anything by somebody's sexuality because that would be gender bias. What did they just do? There's a young man. Oh, he's male. Right away they assume. He's from Georgia. The South, they assume. He's white. They assume. He's heterosexual. They assume. And yet they don't see that they have now become everything they preach against. Well, Susie Lee Wise says, under the inclusive language campaign, quote, which is all the rage at Michigan and some other universities, students are told to stop, think before they speak. According to its face page, it's an education program designed to raise awareness about the impact of words. It's not a ban, but a campaign to encourage individuals to speak with thought and purpose. Based on a poster the group posted online, the elements of the campaign aims to discourage students from wearing ethnic costumes at parties. Well, that's some boring parties. Includes dressing as women in full Muslim coverage, but what if you dressed as a Christian, I wonder? But wearing Mexican and Japanese costumes, well, that's not okay. So hold on, this young lady had some other interesting things to say, and I'm going to tell you about it next.
Where will Wyoming be by the year 2100? Are we building a future for our children, or are we stealing it? Right now, government employees who expect a retirement check will find their pension fund broke in just 14 years. Wyoming's pension will go the way of pensions of Detroit and Illinois, which are already bankrupt. If we want Wyoming to still be a viable state at the next turn of the century, we can't let it go bankrupt. Wyoming needs to set the example and not saddle future generations with today's debt. Visit Wyoming2100.com for a few ideas on how we can avoid spending traps that are bankrupting so many other states. Wyoming2100.com. The long view, the right road.
I'm Professor Burke from Farmers Insurance, and this is 30 Seconds of Smart. So you want discounts on your home insurance. Upgrade your roof. Upgrade your plumbing. Get a burglar alarm. Get a fire alarm. Combine policies with your spouse. Bundle your coverage. Quit smoking. And, of course, talk to farmers, because the more you know about home insurance, the more you can save.
We are farmers.
Get smarter about your insurance at farmers.com.
Stop by and see Lyle Austin, 201 West Lakeway Road in the Lakeway Professional Center, 686-5002. That's 686-5002.
Hey, Frank, you're actually gonna fall for that hooker. I'm just so hungry, and the lure looks so good. Yeah, well, just look up through the ice hole at that guy. Hey, he's got all the ladies his gear, doesn't he? He's so warm and comfortable, and the top window sportsman clothing, and fishing pole, and the best lures, nice comfortable chairs, coolers, warmers. He's got it all. I can't stand it. I'm gonna bite the hook. Are you seriously gonna fall for that? No, it's just that it has to be warmer up there above the ice than down here in the water. Yeah, and that frying pan he's got on the fire's a lot more.
Rocky Mountain Discount Sports has everything that the ice fisherman needs for the winter. Lines and lures, rods and reels. Special outfits to keep you warm, tents to keep the wind away, and the right kind of lures for winter fishing. Rocky Mountain Discount Sports, 4706 South Douglas Highway in Gillette, Wyoming. Open Monday through Saturday, 8 till 9, Sunday 9 to 6. Have you ever heard of the American Automation Association? Oh, probably not. We're a company that produces high-quality automation systems, the kind that replace employees, thus saving corporations lots of money and increasing their personal profits. Now, no doubt you've seen some of our inventions every day. The self-serve automated checkout at the grocery store, thus saving money on checkout clerks. The self-serve gas pump, that was us too. No need for an attendant. The ATM machine at your local bank. Yup. That was us. And so many more gadgets that are behind the scenes that you may not even know about, like the automation machine at this very radio station that eliminates the need for a full-time employee to man the board. On behalf of the American Automation Association, we would like to thank the Democrat Party for pushing a minimum wage increase up to $15 an hour. Each time the minimum wage is increased, we at the AAA get more business from companies looking to get rid of their lower wage employees and replace them with automation. A $15 an hour minimum wage increase would be a boom for our business. Also, thanks for heaping piles of rules and regulations on local companies as well, and taxes and Obamacare. Thanks to socialism, business at American Automation is booming.
Hello. Yes, I think Glenn is going to take your call next, but don't call him Glenn. He wants to be called Pasty White Guy. Oh, no, he takes it as a compliment. Trust me. Wait, here we go.
Back to the show. Back to Glenn Woods.
So this is just some good news because I gave you so much bad news today. So there's this young lady at a university who has just had enough of political correctness. She's even made sure not to go to colleges where this kind of stuff is happening, but apparently she couldn't escape it. So she's written an op-ed about it. She says, one commentator on the group's Facebook page called himself a bleeding heart. So he's coming right out as a liberal. New York progressive liberal, in fact, he said, wrote that the campaign of politically correct speech is insane. Said the liberal, if you think this is an assault on free speech, you're completely nuts. You're also becoming a laughing stock. Grow up. That's a liberal speaking there. Quoting, after all being drafted as thought police charged with regulating speech of our peers, young Miss Weiss wrote, sounds like a joke, right? If so, it's one that my school, a public university, has reportedly spent $16,000 on. Apparently, that's the budget necessary just to explain that words such as Jude or gypped are offensive. My grandmother could have told me that for free, she said. This is a smart kid. By the way, DJ watching on the video stream just called me a pasty white guy. See, so that right there would be an insult if DJ was not a pasty white woman, just so you know. A freshman attending the mandatory assembly. Oh, dear Lord, is it mandatory? You have to go to this. Where we were taught, among other things, that wishing someone Merry Christmas is microaggression. She said, I'm a Jew, and I'm proud to report that I've faced that verbal assault and survived. In fact, she wishes people a Merry Christmas right back. So think about that. What the liberals are telling college students now, and it costs them $16,000 to tell them this, saying Merry Christmas to somebody could very well be verbal assault. Verbal assault. This is what's being taught at university. Now, this is where I say that when you hear stories like this from a young woman, like I'm describing right now, the best thing to do if your kid is going to that college, get your kid the hell out of that college. That's the best thing that could happen. is that people no longer attended those schools. So, and well written for a freshman in college, by the way. She says the real scandal at Michigan and similar schools isn't the use of particular word slurs. It's the tendency of the politically correct police students, professors, and administrators, she said, to shut down legitimate debate by silencing anyone who dares to commit what they consider a crime of speech thought. Instead of putting students in groups with each other in a painful game of out-oppression, who hasn't had it worse? The black students or the transgender students? Wouldn't it be better to drop the isms and learn simply just to be good to each other? She says, I propose a new initiative, one that I'm confident will outlast previous bullet board, bake sale, and social media campaigns. Call it the Golden Rule. Well, we all know what the Golden Rule is, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Simple as that, right? Isn't that simple enough? She also castigated her campus administration for failing to push the students that threw hot dogs and eggs and nasty messages at the door of a fellow student who was not abiding by political correctness. This is Glenn, who's on the phone.
Hi, Glenn. This is the Dan.
The Dan. Yes, sir.
So, I disagree with you. At the college age, I wouldn't have parents pull their kids out of those colleges.
Mm-hmm.
I would teach their kids to stand up and change these colleges. Don't run from it, fight it.
Well, the reason I say pull the kids out of it is because, wait a second, wait, hold on. I got some audio running here. Hang on a second, Dan, let me shut everything down. Boom, there, jeez. Well, I say pull them out is because what you have is a bunch of college professors there that are being paid a lot of money, and we already know what kind of nutballs they are. So I would like to put them out of business.
Well, I can see that, in a grade school level, but at the college level, I feel you need to stand up to them and have bunches stand up.
No, I understand stand up. You want to stand up to them. I want to put them out of business.
Right.
There you go.
So we both want change.
All right, there you go. Thanks for calling, Dan. Appreciate it.
Welcome to Coffee Cabana. Our special today is the popular Mocha Mocha Kappa Mocha Kappa. What can I blend for you today?
Cup of coffee, please.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, just a regular size coffee, please, that's all.
Oh, I guess I don't understand.
What part of that don't you understand?
Well, for one, we have several different sizes: petite, medio, alto, forte, muy grande, and crescendo.
All right, I just want a small cup of regular coffee, please.
But
Okay, look. Point to the cup that's the smallest. Okay, there you go. That's the one.
Oh, okay, I see. And what would you like at that?
Coffee.
And?
Just coffee.
But we have syrups and powders and toppings and frappalapalatas.
Just coffee. Plain old coffee in a frickin' cup.
Oh,
Look, okay, take the cup. Perfect. Now, hold it under the coffee spout. Good. Now fill it up. There you go. Now, give it to me.
That's it?
Yes, that's all.
Well, how odd.
Yeah, whatever. How much?
$6.50, sir.
Sorry?
$6.50.
How is this little cup of coffee more expensive than a gallon of gasoline in my car? I didn't even add any frappa, lappa, mocha crap or whatever to it.
Well, sir, the beans are dried on solar panels.
Never mind.
And then we use wind power
Forget
generate. But we're green.
Look, I'll give you $20 if you don't say another word.
But,
nope. There you go. Good girl.
Might I suggest trading that for a decaf?
just a good cup of coffee if you can't spit it across the dashboard now and then, right? Oh, yeah, it'd ruin a good work shirt. Sure, burn the hell out of your inner thighs. We know what you need, though, in a radio program.
Irreverent but honest. And tastefully tacky. It's Glenn Woods.
It's the Boulder Public Radio Show. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Last 7 minutes of the program. Real quick, don't forget there's an app for the program. Several ways to listen to the program. Find me on a local radio station. Go to my website, boldrepublic.com. You can watch the video. You can go to the show archives. There's also an app for that. If you want to download the app onto your whatever device you play an app off of, go right ahead and do it. And you can listen to the show whenever you want. Also, and I'm starting the campaign here for those listening to the show on Spreaker. You know who you are. If you'll please go to my page and just follow me. I get 100 followers. This program is also on iHeartRadio. So radio stations, iHeartRadio, we got apps, we got video. So if you would do that, I really appreciate it. Now, I want to answer something that the Dan just said when he called us a moment ago. Because he has a point. He's right. I preach this kind of stuff all the time. Show up, stand up. When political correctness, for example, is happening, well, you need to show up and stand up, because if you don't, well, that's why the opposition wins. That's why conservatives often lose, because we never showed up for the fight in the first place. And if we do show up for the fight, we don't hang around very long. So show up and stand up is one of the ways to do it. And I can't tell you how happy to see college students around America doing just that. University of California, 6 students banned the American flag, and another university board comes along immediately and says, the hell you do, and they have the power to veto it. Free speech zones, kids walking around challenging free speech zones. I can speak anywhere I want, anytime I want. So that is certainly one way to do it. But there is also another way to handle this. Every time a university starts engaging in this kind of political correctness, several things that they do. They force your kids to take useless courses that will do nothing except cost more money, but will not help them get the job that they need to get. You know, the underwater basket weaving kind of politically correct kind of courses. Well, when you go to enroll your kid in college, when they offer up and you have to take all of these courses mandatory, well, I'm simply not going to do that. Just tell the university that. My kid does not have to take those useless courses in order to get a degree. If you're telling me that he has to, I'm not going to your college. I'm simply not going to spend money here. You see what we're doing? You don't have to send your kids to those courses. There's part of the problem. We're not treating this like a business. Don't have your kid take courses that have nothing to do with their future. That's one. Next, this young lady that I was just reading from her article said, well, we had to all, as freshmen, take a mandatory course on politically correct speech. Okay, well, just simply tell the university, you try to put my kid into one of those mandatory courses, you lose our business. You see, if enough of that happens, they got a choice. Either get back to doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is giving your kids the knowledge they need to go out and get a job, or go out of business as a university. Part of the problem is people enroll their kids in these colleges thinking, well, I have to put up with it. We have to do it. No, you don't. You can shop around and pick and choose universities that do not engage in political correctness. That's one of the things that you can do. So Dan is correct in the sense that stand up and fight these people. You can also get professors and other people, administrators, removed. But we're not going to change the culture of our universities, which are too top-heavy with administrators and engaging in this insane political correctness, until we start treating universities like a business. Shop around and do not purchase politically correct. Okay, now, last couple of stories real quick. There was a guy some time ago that President Obama hired as sort of an anti-bullying czar. He was supposed to travel the country from universities to high schools and so on and preach about anti-bullying. That's what he was supposed to do. And he was supposed to, he came across some problem. He's not doing that job anymore because, well, frankly, he turned to one guy who he disagreed with and told him to, can't say that on here. Just recently, Dr. Ben Carson made some comments about what he believes about homosexuality, where it comes from. Is it natural? Is it not natural? Ben Carson gave his honest opinion about whether homosexuality is a choice or not. To that, this guy who used to work for President Obama, trying to teach the nation, our youth, about not bullying anybody, he said, well, Dr. Ben Carson can... If you want to know what he said, you got to go to my website, because I'm not going to say it on here. BoldRepublic.com. That's the website, BoldRepublic.com. Go to my Daily Outrage page, and you'll see the story there. That is your anti-bullying czar. Now, I don't know what mental disorder this guy suffers from. Oh, I know. He's a hardcore leftist. Well, I can't say it because I've already put the donkey button away. I can't say that word on the air. According to DJ, 100 Spreaker followers will we'll talk to the Facebook followers next. We will do that. Absolutely. All right, guys, it's only Tuesday. Whole list of things that we got to catch up on and talk about on Wednesday. Hope you join me then.